Hello, this is Adam Graham in 2024, and we're bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts. Included is our final episode of 2010 and our first week of programming in 2011. Now, as these are quite old, any offers included in the podcast are not valid unless they're currently on our Great Detectives website at greatdetectives.net. Now, please enjoy this compilation of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, go ahead and email it to me. Box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Well, today's got a very special episode of Johnny Dollar, which I'll tell you about in just a second. Before we do get started, I did want to remind you that this weekend is the last day of our After Christmas special on Tales of the Dim Night ebooks. It's a great superhero parody. I think it will bring a lot of humor. You can go to dimnight.com for more details. I've mentioned as before that that the sale is on Kindle, but it also can be used for other ebook readers. There'll be information on that at dimnight.com. Well, today is, as I said, a very special episode of Johnny Dollar. Now, Johnny Dollar is well known for script reuse. We've already run into a lot of instances where scripts from previous Johnny Dollars have been used on the show. In addition to this, when you get into some of the later episodes, there are scripts from shows like Richard Diamond, Sam Spade, Nightbeat, that all influenced the development of particularly the Bob Bailey Johnny Dollar scripts, as well as, of course, Jeff Regan. However, this episode of Johnny Dollar is based on an episode of another radio show that wasn't explicitly a detective show. The concept for this script was actually first used in a February 18th, 1948 episode of Voyage of the Scarlet Queen. Voyage of the Scarlet Queen followed the adventures of Philip Carney, the ship's master, as he sailed across the Pacific encountering adventure. The series starred Elliot Lewis and Howard Duff as Carney. So what could a sea captain have in common with America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, and how could you take the adventures of one and adapt them to another? Well, we're going to find out. It's the Queen Anne Pistols matter here on the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio.
It's time now for Edmond O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Hello, Dollar. This is Carter down at Tri-State Insurance.
Yeah, I've heard of it. How are you, Bill?
Fair. Listen, we have a vice president down here who has an idiot cousin selling insurance for us in New York City. Well, he's done it again.
You call me for advice or sympathy?
He just sold a $15,000 policy covering a pair of antique pistols for the trip from here to a buyer in Boston.
Well, some of those old weapons are worth it.
Well, these must be. That's why I want you to see that they get there. According to this Leonard Bonney, who brought the pistols this far from England, somebody tried twice to steal them. That we learned after he bought the policy. Will you take the job?
Okay, Bill. And when can I talk to this Bonnie?
He's at the doctor's, but he'll be back in my office in an hour.
Doctor's?
Yeah. The last time the thugs jumped him, they put a knife through his arm.
Edmond O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office Tri-State Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Attention, William Carter. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during assignment on the Queen Anne pistol matter. Expense account item 1, $1.75 cab fare from my apartment to your office, where I was introduced to Leonard Bonney, a tallish, badly proportioned man whose pasty complexion was just a shade darker than the sling that supported his left arm.
Well, it's a pleasure, Mr. Dollar, a pleasure.
Thanks. You've had a pretty rough go of it.
That's right. And it's the truth that I'm glad to see somebody else taking the responsibility.
You might tell Mr. Dollar about these attacks on you.
Oh, yeah, I'll be happy to, Mr. Carter. The first time was in Liverpool before I boarded ship to come across. They came out from between two buildings near the wharf, 3 of them. They handed me a whack on the bean, and that's the truth. And before they could lay another hand on me, I raced off.
Did you have the pistols with you?
Oh, no. And I didn't have them in New York when another gang attacked me. They almost killed me with that knife.
The pistols are here, Dollar. Would you like to see them?
Yeah, I would.
Here, I'll open the case.
The box he opened was leather-bound and satin-lined. 2 pistols nestled in it, graceful flintlocks with 10-inch forged barrels upon which were engraved a coronet and a name so faint that I couldn't make it out.
They're from the 18th century. They're worth £10,000 as a collector's item.
Where do they go?
Oh, to an antique gun shop at 272 Medford Street in Boston. The proprietor's name is Arthur Worthing. He's a British chap. He wears spectacles. You'll recognize him.
Will you be coming with me?
Me? I don't think no. I've had enough. I'll stay here and wait word from Mr. Carter that the pistols have got their safe. Oh, no. I've had enough.
The rest of the rundown was given to me before I left the office. Leonard Bonney had been hired as a messenger by the seller in London, who had explained the value of the guns, but had not mentioned any potential danger of attempted theft. With that information and the pistol case tucked into a corner of my luggage, I made arrangements to leave. Expense account item 2, $9.75 airfare and incidental expenses between Hartford and Boston. The address on Medford Street that Bonney had given to me was on the fringe of the retail district. There was a sign, and there were a few dusty weapons in the window.
Good day, sir.
Hello, you Arthur Worthing?
Yes, I am.
My name's Dollar. I've been hired by the Tri-State...
Mr. Bonney telegraphed me to expect you. The package, sir. I see you have the package.
Yeah, I have it.
This is a day I have long anticipated, sir. There. 2 masterpieces from the shop of James Freeman, Norwich, circa 1705. Sir, are you a fancier of arms?
Nothing antique.
Oh, that's a pity, sir, a pity. Fascinating study. These pistols have quite a remarkable history. Fashioned during Queen Anne's reign and gave service during one of Europe's blackest eras.
Yeah, they're pretty. But I like mine with less history and more shocking power.
As might be supposed, sir, the English gunsmiths prospered during those stirring times, profiting by the constant demands for muskets and pistols to supply the good Queen's armies in Flanders.
Ah, is that right? Well, I have a paper for you to
These
sign.
weapons, sir, rode through the campaigns at the belt of an officer raised near Norwich. And if the truth were known, sir, more than one murder has been committed not only by them, but because of them. Tell me, sir, were you followed?
Not that I know of. Now, if I could get your signature on this release,
Just a moment, young man. I believe that the assurance policy purchased by Mr. Bonney is in effect until the pistols rest in the possession of the purchaser. Is that not correct?
You're not the buyer?
Well, unfortunately, sir, a price of $20,000 is a great deal too dear for me.
Well, who is it then and where?
A Mr. and Mrs. Jack Rollins' bride.
Bride. Okay. Address?
Yes, I'll jot it down for you. Just a moment. 8 Victoria Drive. There you are. It's a large dress on the left flank as you approach it from the east.
I think I can find it.
Now give the Pister's bride and tell them that either Mr. Bonney or myself will contact them at the earliest opportunity.
All right, I'll get back to you by phone.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have a package to deliver to either Mr. or Mrs. Bride. Are they at home?
Yes, sir. I'll take it to them.
Well, my instructions are to give it to them personally.
Who is it, Dean?
A gentleman with a parcel for you, madam.
A Arthur.
My name is Dollar. Are you Mrs. Bryan?
Yes.
Well, here are your pistols. Mr. Worthing.
Come in. Mr. Worthing, I don't understand.
Well, maybe your husband knows it all.
Yes, perhaps that's... Oh!
Madam.
What's the matter?
You can't. You can't.
What's the matter, Mrs. Bryan?
Oh, heavens, Estelle, what's the trouble? Who is this man? What's it? Oh. Take Mrs. Bride to her room, dear.
No, Jack. I want to know. What does it mean, Jack? What does it mean?
Be quiet, Estelle. I'll take care of this.
Come along, Mrs. Bride. I'll help you to your room and get you a bromide.
Now, what do you want?
No, I don't want anything but your signature on this paper, acknowledging your receipt of the pistols described therein.
You'll get no signature from me. Here, let me see that.
Hey, watch it, will you?
Leonard Bonney. He's here in America.
That's what he said his name was. I brought the pistols from Hartford to a man named Arthur Worthing. He sent me to you.
Who's Arthur Worthing?
I took it that you knew one another. He's a dealer in antique weapons.
Yes, of course. Get out of here. Take this fake form and take your pistols. Go back to your Mr. Worthing. Your bluff won't work.
Now, listen to me.
I don't believe that Bonnie is here. I don't think he's still alive. Now, get out of here!
I didn't bother to argue with him because, as far as I could see then, he was either terrified, crazy, or both. With the pistols, I took the shortest route back to Arthur Worthing's gun shop on Medford Street. I should have saved myself the anger I'd built up to let go at Worthing. The place was not only locked, it was empty of antique weapons. And Arthur Worthing's sign had been replaced in the window by another which read, Office or Store for Rent. Inquire number 13 Groves Building. I decided not to. Expense account item 3, 70 cents, day letter to Tri-State reporting my lack of progress. And expense account item 4, same as item 2, transportation back to Hartford. My phone was ringing when I unlocked the door of my apartment at 10 that night. Johnny Dollar.
Bill Carter, Johnny. Did I interrupt something?
Yeah, I just got in. Just came through the door.
That's crazy business in Boston. What do you make of it?
Well, the man called it blackmail, so I guess that's what it is. But what reason there was for using me, I don't get. Unless they figured Bride would get violent.
I've been trying to reach that Bonnie. He left a phone number.
What'd you get, the city pound?
No, some woman with an accent so thick we can't understand each
Well,
other.
forget it. Bonnie just made it up. He was lying on his teeth about everything.
Do you have the pistols?
Yeah, but not for long. I'm bringing them down to your vault in the morning.
Good. Stop by my office. Aren't you curious about this thing?
No, not even intrigued. I don't want any part of it. That was only half true. I didn't want any part of it, but I was intrigued. Later, after a shower and over a highball, I took the pistols out of their case and looked them over. Except for the possibility that they were the tools of blackmail, I could find nothing to make them worth $20,000. But under a strong light, I did make out the name engraved on the barrel that I hadn't been able to read before. It was Bride, as in Mr. and Mrs. Jack Rawlins Bride. And the date behind it was 1704. I wondered what there was about something out of the 18th century that could send a 20th century woman into hysterics. The next day, I saw the pistols put under lock and key, started to work on another case, and try to forget the whole thing. But I was reminded of it again by the caller who was waiting for me in the corridor outside my apartment that night, the bride's butler.
I hope you'll pardon my intrusion, sir. You must know why I've come.
Well, I can guess.
I shan't take up much of your time. But if I could just talk to you.
All right, we'll go inside.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Sit down.
I'll stand, sir. Could you possibly give me the pistols, Mr. Dollar?
No.
But why not, sir?
Well, the main reason is I don't have them. Bride didn't seem to want them when I tried to give them to him.
Oh, but he did, sir. If Wolfe had putting his signature on the form which described them, it would have become an admission that he had received them.
What's he afraid of?
I couldn't say, sir. He told me that he wouldn't be able to answer for the consequences if I failed to bring them back.
What does that mean?
Mr. Bride is a very violent and sudden man.
Look, I'm through with the case. I turned the guns back to the company that insured them, and he can get them by going down there and signing that release.
I beg of you, sir, get them tomorrow morning and give them to me.
I can't.
Possibly because they aren't theirs.
It felt like a bee sting. Then I got a look at the vial in his hand and the needle. His expressionless face watching me became diffused and was streaked with flashes of red. I tried to reach for the face, but it swirled and out of sight. I took one stumbling step after it. That was the best I could do.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. But first, we Americans have a valuable heritage. A heritage of individual freedom that includes the freedom to worship as we wish at the church or synagogue of our own choice. By attending church regularly, we can gain the moral and spiritual strength to meet the many problems which confront us today. Help support your church and attend regularly with your family. Now with our star, Edmond O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Come on now, laddie. Open your eyes. You can do it now. You can do it. Yeah, you feel that? You can feel that all right, can't you? Come on now. You're all better now, aren't you? Now, hold on now. Don't slip away again. Wake up. That's better. I'm Mr. Bonnie. Remember me? Darling, none of that. You're all right. I'll put you on your bed. You're in your flat.
Where'd you come from?
Oh, it's a good thing I came from somewhere. I've been playing touch and go with you since 6 o'clock. First you'd come to, and then you'd go again.
Which time? What time is it?
Past 9. Yeah, you drink service. I looked for some tea, but I couldn't find any. I'm not too handy at making coffee. Is that hot enough?
Yeah.
Oh, now, what happened to you?
I don't know. Dope. He jabbed me in the arm.
Who was he? Bride?
Oh, come on, leave me alone, will you?
Oh, no, you don't. I've had enough of this. You stay awake. Come on now.
That treatment went on for another 45 minutes. That and the coffee. From the bed, I could see that my apartment had been torn to pieces. I was too sick to be angry about it. And when I could sit up and put my feet on the floor, I realized without surprise that Bonnie's arm was no longer in a sling. In fact, there was a Webley automatic in his hand.
Oh, that. Well, the surgeon said I wouldn't need the sling anymore.
Oh, you are lying.
Stand up now. Come on. Did he get those pistols?
Who?
Bride. Whoever it was tore up your flat looking for them.
No, he didn't get them. And you aren't going to get them either.
Oh, yeah, now, you got an head on your shoulders. You use it. Where are they?
You'll have to do more than wave that automatic around to get them. They're in a vault downtown.
What do you want? A share for yourself?
Look, it was your idea to insure those things. Bride wouldn't receive them, and the company wants to protect them until he does. You must have known that. Why did you insure them?
Well, it was Worthing's plan. I told him it was too tricky. You're in a fine mess now. I've got to take you to him.
Why? I can't do anything.
Don't you ask so many questions. You just come along.
He gun-muzzled me out of my apartment and into a car. If I'd been in better shape, I might have been able to break away from him. But with my system still full of dope, I didn't have either the will or the energy for a try. I only half remember the trip. But the end of it was a shabby hotel within earshot of the harbor in Boston.
It's Bonnie. I brought Mr. Dollar.
Capital, Bonnie. Capital. Come in. You're white as a ghost, Mr. Dollar. Are you ill?
Yeah, and you don't help.
They put a needle into him trying to get the pistol.
Oh, what a pity, what a pity. Sit down, sir. Sit down, please, by all means. Did they get him?
Well, he says no, and if he's telling the truth, we're in a mess.
In a mess, Bonnie.
He says the pistols are locked up at the insurance company in Hartford.
Well, now, is that the truth?
I don't see why that should be hard to believe.
Now, what do you say to that? I told you it wouldn't work. You and your complicated plans. Now we've lost the whole thing.
Nonsense, Bonnie, nonsense. Why, actually, the pistols are of no consequence whatsoever.
Well, they were important enough in London when we talked about coming here with them.
Of course they were, Bonnie, but now they've served their purpose. The brides have seen them. You have spoken to them on the phone. It only remains for you to collect the money. The end of the past, Bonnie.
Well, I think we need them.
Well, Mr. Dollar, it suddenly occurs to me that I have spilled the beans, as you yank so quaintly put it. I've told you the truth.
I don't want to know the truth.
Why don't you keep quiet, Worthing?
That's a good idea. Until I get out of here anyway.
Bonnie, stop him.
Look, I have no place in this. Just leave me alone.
Bonnie, stop him, or everything is lost.
All right, Ned Bucko, come on back.
Gotta get away from me.
Come on. You don't feel so good. I hope to make you feel... Whoa! Yeah. That's right now. Back in the chair.
What do you want? You want me to know what's going on? I do. Blackmail.
Yes, of the grossest sort, sir. We shall be handsomely paid by the brides to keep secret a 2-year-old murder of which they are guilty.
I don't care.
Why don't you keep quiet, Worthing?
Well, Mr. Dollar?
If you expect me to be surprised, I'll have to disappoint you. What else could it be? But why were you stupid enough to think that he'd sign that release?
Yes, I shall have to admit that my sights were too high. But a signed admission... It was such a devilishly clever scheme, I was forced to have a try at it.
Then why keep me involved in it?
Because you are a witness, so to speak. Now, be patient, sir.
After being dragged into the lives of people I don't know and don't want to know, after being drugged and knocked around by your gunman?
Enough of that. And now, Bonnie, the hour to strike has come. I will meet the brides. Here. Oh, by the way, let me have your Webley.
What about me?
You, at the same time, will be at the bride residence waiting for them to return and make the initial payment of our $20,000. The contest is won, Bonnie.
I hope you're right, Worthing. It's been a long one.
Yes, it has. A splendid quest.
He made a phone call to the brides, and Bonnie left. Worthing concentrated on the Webley automatic while we waited, and I concentrated on my head. By the time the brides arrived an hour later, I was almost able to stand without staggering. Well.
Mr. and Mrs. Bride, late of Norwich. Our paths at last cross. Please, come in. I am Arthur Worthing. You don't know me, but I assure you that you will. Oh, you remember Mr. Dollar?
Yes.
We should hardly forget him.
You're not alone there.
I'm afraid I have most distressing news for you, Mr. and Mrs. Bride. I shall be unable to make deliveries since Mr. Dollar has gained possession of the pistols and steadfastly refuses to part with them. He is a veritable thorn in my side.
Do you expect sympathy from us, Mr. Worthing?
Well, indeed, I expect nothing of the sort. No more than your uncle, the Duke of Pembroke, would have expected from you had he known your true thoughts before you had him murdered.
Are you lecturing Worthing? You're planning to profit from the same death.
Yes, quite a profitable death to everyone but the poor Duke. The estate fortune to the brides and to the others of us who nibble at the edges, a small share. Even you, Mr. Dollar, earned a penny or two.
Cut this short, will you? It's a little too thick for me.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. Bride, you both understand the terms that Leonard Barney and I have decided upon. We, in turn, agree to maintain complete silence in regard to your part in the murder of the Duke of Pembroke between 6 and 7 p.m., 8 October 1948, at which time, according to knowledge shared by us, a killer hired by yourselves did shoot said Duke to death.
How can we be sure if you tell us Dollar refuses to give up the pistols?
Mr. Dollar?
Leave me out of this.
An unfortunate situation, but one of minor importance. The theft of the pistols has become, according to your plans, the generally accepted motive for the murder, in view of their extreme value, and since they did indeed disappear. But who would correlate them to the true story?
Oh, Jack, we could never be sure.
Quiet as still.
My word will be kept. But Bonnie, I readily admit I do not know. The proof of your guilt lies with him, and he may decide that he needs more money one day. But the negotiation's at hand. The cost is $20,000. $5,000 to be paid tonight to Bonnie, who now awaits you at your residence, The rest within the next 7 days.
Oh, I don't see how it's going to be possible.
Oh, come now. Surely, rather than sacrifice the gracious life the Duke's fortune is affording you...
I don't know. The time is so short.
We'll manage it still. There must be a way. We have the 5,000.
Bonnie will be waiting for you.
Now Mr. Dollar has heard the story. What good is buying your silence? But first he knows, then someone else knows, and someone else... I can't do it.
Still. In heaven's name, Bride, do you want the police to descend upon us? Then we all would be lost. All but Leonard Bonnie.
I'm going to the police. I want them to know.
Stop it, Estelle.
Take her now and go meet Bonnie.
Come along, Estelle. You go home.
Convince her, Bride, that there is no reason to fear Dollar's knowledge. I have my own plans for him.
Worthing's success made him careless. Calling his orders to the bride, he was a quarter turn away from me. As soon as the door closed, I moved. As far as I was concerned, it was a toss-up between being a good citizen and phoning the police or using my head and leaving. I decided on a compromise, an anonymous report. I leaned over him to double-check his name and started through his pockets. His inside coat pocket gave me a week-old receipt for the weapons with which he dressed up his phony gun shop. His wallet held some money, but no identification. I patted his side coat pockets. They were cluttered with the usual men's debris and nothing else. But I patted the empty pockets again, and down at the bottom of the right one, I felt a thin, rectangular object. It was inside the coat lining. I got my fingers into the seam and ripped. The object was a card set into a plate of parent plastic. It said, Arthur T. Worthing, Inspector, C.I.D., Scotland Yard. Oh, the devil. Hey, Inspector Worthing.
I gotta say, that was rather...
Here, try some of this.
Thank you. Well, I must say that you're an extraordinary ally, Mr. Dollar.
It would help, you know, if your allies knew they were allies instead of pigeons. Do you want to try and get up?
Not just, I think. A vicious pummeling. But more about that later. Suffice it to say that I have been posing as a blackmailer for so long that I scarcely know what I am myself. I couldn't shed my disguise in front of you until the final details were arranged.
What is this approach of yours?
Approach, sir.
This crazy scheme. Here, come on, take my hand.
Oh, thank you. Not crazy, sir. Intricate, perhaps, but I did obtain a confession, didn't I? With you as a witness. During the investigation in England, no effort was enough to swerve the brides from their story of their murder. I had to turn criminal to meet them on a common level and gain the truth.
And did you have in mind stopping the brides before they commit another murder or after?
That's an odd question, sir.
Oh, no, not since this is making sense. Not since you baited Bride with the idea that Bonnie was the only one that could prove them guilty of murder.
Impeccable truth, Mr. Dollar, since it was Bonnie they hired to commit their crime. If the brides were apprehended at the scene immediately after they had murdered that miserable little cutthroat known as Bonnie, well, then, they'd be hard-pressed to find a valid reason for not confessing to the original murder of the Duke, would they not now?
I think you softened the wife up to the point where she'd spill.
Yes, by Jove, I believe you've hit the nail squarely on the head. We'll phone the police to go there.
I think you hit the same nail on the head when you palled up with Bonnie and talked him into coming over here with blackmail in mind.
Yes, you're right. This has been a personal matter. The Duke of Pembroke was my friend. As I said, nothing could be done in England, so here I am. Unofficially, of course. I suggest now that I phone the police, don't you?
Here, driver, keep it.
Thank you, sir. And good night, you.
Good night, young man. No sign of the police, Dollar.
They'll arrive quietly. We'd better get up to the house. We dropped our cab a few yards down from the bride address. When we got there, we took the driveway. There was a light in a room I'd spotted the last time I was there, a library. We angled off toward it, but before we reached it, a look I tossed over my shoulder stopped me. Behind us in the street, I could see a swarm of uniformed figures slipping silently toward us. They were close, but not close enough.
Boys, come to it. Look, I'll pick it up. I'll go back to England. You'll never be bothered by me.
Come on, take 3 men and cover the rear. All right, come on, you guys. Let's go this way.
Inspector got what he wanted, the murder of the gunman Bonnie and the arrest of the brides. Justice is supposed to move in straight, formal lines. When that kind misfires, I guess it's cricket to go devious. He brought a victim as well as a motive clear across the Atlantic to set up the playoff scene. Expense account item 5, same as number 2, transportation back to Hartford. Item 6, miscellaneous. You'll have to admit I deserve something for what I went through. $150. Expense account total, $365.35. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmond O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmond O'Brien can soon be seen in the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Ben Wright, Bill Conrad, Dick Ryan, Jeanette Nolan, Dan O'Herlihy, and Tyler McVeigh. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. This is Bob Lamond inviting you to join us next week at this time when we will again bring you Edmond O'Brien as
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Every Saturday night, Americans from coast to coast play Sing It Again. Do you? Well, if you don't know the fun and excitement you're missing. Not to mention radio's largest cash award if you can name the Phantom Voice. There's music on Sing It Again. Music with Alan Dale, Bob Howard, Judy Lynn, the Riddlers, Ray Block and his orchestra. There are contestants from all over America, phoned by Dan Seymour. And there are prizes. Prizes galore, plus that special jackpot prize we mentioned earlier. So stay at home. Play at home on Saturday nights when over many of these same CBS stations, Dan Seymour says it's Sing It Again. Stay tuned now for Von Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. If you met a stranger on the street who offered to give you $4 for the tree, you'd be pretty skeptical. But when Uncle Sam makes the same offer, you can take him up on it and be sure you're getting a square deal. By investing your money in United States savings bonds, you'll get that extra dollar profit when the bonds mature. Buy your bonds through the payroll savings plan where you work or the bond-a-month plan where you bank. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, there were a lot of changes in the script, but a lot of things remain very much the same. Both the name of the assassin as well as the name of the police officer remained exactly the same. The Scarlet Queen episode, of course, being an adventure on the high seas, was actually set in Australia, while, of course, this one was set in Boston. But they reused a lot of the same dialogue. But, of course, there were occupational adjustments and things that were added in. For example, the butler drugging Johnny was something that was new to this script. Of course, there are all kinds of differences. I'm not going to go through all of them. However, for those of you who have the app or our premium site, I will go ahead and make Voyage of the Scarlet Queen available to you, that particular episode, as an extra. And I've given some thought to doing a regular extra show. I don't want to do an actual detective show that I would do on this podcast, but there are some shows that are pretty close in relation to detective shows. And I could definitely see enjoying doing Voyage of the Scarlet Queen. Fascinating show. with a lot of elements in common with many of the detective shows. I got a nice email here from Fix-It Fish, who writes, Adam, for years I have enjoyed your old-time radio shows. Thought I'd take a chance and nominate you for a Tech Crunch Crunchy. And really did appreciate that nomination. Fortunately, the nominations were close, so it was a little late for me to be able to get news to you about it, but I appreciate it when folks think of the show. Have a very special email from Heidi, who says, listening to the show on the Android app. Thank you so much for all your hard work, expanding the availability of the podcast to new mediums for virtually nothing. You have a loyal following, and I'm one of them. By the way, I'm going to buy a subscription of Audible for my hubby for Christmas through your website. Well, thanks so much, Heidi, and one of the advantages of taping ahead, I'm recording this on December 21st, but by the time it airs on December 31st, I will not be giving away any secrets. Thank you so much for all your comments and all your support in 2010. It's been really great. While we've only had a firm sponsor for one quarter this year, the audience has been sensational. Everybody really appreciate all your words of support. It definitely makes it worth it. We're going to look forward to bringing you more great shows in 2011. That'll do it, though, for 2010. We'll be back next week with our first episode of 2011, which will also be our last episode of The Thin Man. Before we do get started, I have a little brief message. As the new year starts, folks are taking stock of their financial situations, and in some cases realizing that we need a more frugal new year. Well, that's one reason why we're pleased to offer the entertainment book. It's a great book full of discounts to local merchants as well as some national merchants as well. You can learn more, find out what merchants are in the entertainment book, including dining, dry cleaning, groceries, and many other things you do anyway. Go to entertainment.greatdetectives.net to learn more about the books in your area, and they're now available at reduced prices. So check that out. Well, this is our last adventure with the Thin Man, and this one is a little bit different. It is the adventure of the haunted hams here on the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio.
Oh, no, Nicky, darling, that's not it.
It isn't, Nora?
No, it goes like this. 33 fine brews blended into one great beer.
Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer presents The New Adventures of the Thin Man with Nick and Nora Charles, the happiest, merriest married couple in radio. Tonight and every Tuesday night at this same time, that international favorite Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer proudly presents the finest in summertime entertainment. So, sit back, relax, and pour yourself a tall, foaming glassful of blended, splendid Pabst Blue Ribbon, while you listen to the stars of our show, Claudia Morgan as Nora and Les Tremayne as Nick, in tonight's adventure of the Thin Man entitled The Haunted Hams. Every once in a while, a man's wife gets the idea that her husband needs a change. Of course, the conscientious little homemaker never suggests that her husband change his wife. Well, this evening, we find the great ex-detective, Nick Charles, in a car with his lovely wife, Nora, and his good friend, Ebenezer Williams, driving through the countryside.
Nicky, look at that moon come up over those trees. Can you see anything as beautiful as that in the city?
Yes.
Oh, name it.
The moon over the polo grounds as the Giants and the Dodgers play a night game.
That just shows how badly you needed this change, doesn't it, Ed?
Yes, I reckon so. You've been working too hard, Nick.
Me? Working?
Yes, you got to get your nose out of that grindstone.
Ed, you, my partner, can say a thing like that?
Yeah.
I got to get my nose out of the grindstone, too.
That grindstone's becoming crowded with noses.
Nora, the only thing we've had our noses in were comic books and detective stories.
That's right. Detective stories, comical books, detective stories. We was in a rut.
And you think we'll get out of it by going up to your farm, Ed?
Why, of course. It's about time we changed ruts. Ed. Ed, listen, there's a fire engine coming up behind you.
Oh, better pull over. I used to be a volunteer fireman round here in the days when I was sheriff.
Here comes the engine, Ed.
Yeah. Well, say, that's my old friend Newt, the fire chief.
Ed, he's stopping.
Yeah. Howdy, Newt.
Howdy, Ed. I thought that was you driving the car, and I stopped just to make sure. That's you, all right.
Reckon ain't nobody else.
Well, I'm awful glad to see you back, Eb.
Well, I'm glad to be back, Newt. Oh, this is my friends, Nick and Nora Charles.
Howdy, folks. It's nice to know you.
Are you going to or coming from a fire, Mr. Newton?
Going to, of course. Say, Eb, did you hear that Shad Simmons had a calf with 2 heads last April?
Well, what do you know?
Yes, but even with 2 heads, he ain't no smarter than one with one.
Is this a serious fire you're going to, Newt?
Well, I can't till I get there, my friend. Say, Eb, did you hear about Methuselah Marbrain?
Don't tell me that he finally married Belle May Bogardus.
Well, they set the wedding for September, but postponed it.
Again?
Yeah, oh dear.
After him being engaged to her for 15 years?
Well, they had a good reason. They figured they'd wait till they was better acquainted. They didn't want to be hasty.
No. Marry in haste, repent.
And lose, yes.
Whose fire are you going to, Newt?
Well, I'm awful glad you remind me of that, Eb, now. Silas Salem's, he's got a fire tonight. Would you like to come along and help?
Well, yes, I reckon so.
Well, just let me get there first. That's all I request. It makes a better impression on the taxpayers. Well, it was a pleasant chat, Eb. I'll see you at the fire.
Yeah, I hope you fellas won't put it out before we get there, Newt.
Oh, have no fear, Eb. We'll wait for you. All aboard, boys! Let out roar!
Does he always dash to a blaze like that, Ed?
Newt? Well, he ain't exactly speedy, but we elected him because he was the only one that can play the tubie in the fireman's band.
Look, Nick, there's the fire.
Yes, and it ain't Silas's house burning tall. It's just his old barn.
Well, come on, Ed. Maybe we can rescue some of his livestock. Hurry up, Nora.
I am, Nick, but you needn't be so anxious.
Oh, now, don't ruin my fun, baby. Ever since I retired from being a detective, I've been dying to rescue something, even if it's a cow.
Hi, Newt.
Oh, hi there, Eb. Howdy, folks.
How's she burning, Newt?
Well, burning pretty good for a barn, Eb.
Have you got all the animals out of the barn yet?
Oh, yeah, sure, yes. Had some awful queer-looking animals in there, though.
What kind?
Well, what you might call the city kind.
Dogs?
Well, that depends on your point of view. Heard them saying they'd been treated like dogs.
Oh, well, they're people.
That depends on your point of view, too. They're actors, real honest-goodness live actors.
Where's Silas?
Oh, he went back to farmhouse. He said he's got the barn insured, so there ain't nothing to worry about. He's been stabling them live actors because he says there's some kind of summer stock.
Oh, you mean they're a summer stock company.
Where is that fire chief? Where is he hiding?
That must be he over there, Master.
Looking for me, Bob?
I certainly am. I am the director and producer of this company. I am Grednoisky.
Well, I'm Newton. Pleased to meet you, Mr. What'd you say your first name was?
You couldn't pronounce it. Just call me Grednoisky. Listen, our theater's burning. I'm
very glad to meet you, Mr. G. This here's my friend, Eb Williams.
Hey, Mr. G.
Hello, Master Fire Chief. Aren't you going?
Mr. G, I'd like you to meet my friends here, Nick and Nora Charles.
How do you do?
I'm doing terrible, thank you. Please, about that fire.
Ain't you going to introduce us to your lady friend, Mr. G?
This is Myra Mannix Arrangenu. Now, please.
Pleased to meet you, Miss Mannix.
Cheers, greetings, salutations, and all that sort of rot.
Oh, are you British?
No, but we're putting on a jolly old British play, you know. Mr. Newton, old boy, aren't you going to do something about our theater? It's getting a bit overheated, you know.
What theater?
The barn. We made it into a theater. It's burning. Aren't you going to do anything about that fire?
Well, we're watching it, ain't we?
Watching it? You're supposed to put it out.
He's kind of excitable, ain't he, Eb?
Yes. Well, theatrical people, they got more nerves and voices than any other kind, you know.
But the barn will burn to the ground.
Don't you want to put it out?
Why, of course not. Some of my boys might get hurt in a blaze like that. Besides, you can't put it out.
Why not?
up?
Nature, my boy, nature. Too much fire and not enough water. But it sure looks awful pretty, don't it? Look at it.
Pretty? I'm going wacky. What?
Well, excuse me, folks. I'd better see to my boys. They're getting awful close to that fire. Don't you think so, Eb?
Yes, they might get a blister.
Oh, dear. Say, now, look, Eb, you stay here for a little while. You can see none of them actor people interferes with the blaze. And if it begins to spread, you call me.
Yeah, sure. You going back to town, Newt?
Oh, yes, I think I should. There might be some other fires for us to look at.
Nick, he's leaving.
Yes. Well, they sure look dashing in those firemen's uniforms.
Eb, how does the siren sound?
Great, Newt. Sounds just like an opera star.
Oh, that's good. It's a brand new one. Well, give her the gun, Willis.
Well, Nick, Nora, that barn's practically burned to the ground now, so I reckon we can go.
All right, Ed. But I wonder what poor Mr. Grodnoisky and his actress are going to do without a theater. Ed, you have a nice big barn on your farm, haven't you?
Yes, but don't say it so loud.
Oh, it's too late. Here comes Grodnoisky and his ingenue, and they've got an opening night gleam in their eyes.
Don't depart, Mr. Williams. Wait a moment.
Yeah, chums, we got great plans for you. Silas Salem says you've got a nice large barn. You great, big, mature Gary Cooper man, you.
Oh, I'm only human.
And such character in his face, like a ripened Gregory Peck. Where do you keep your barn, and how much do you want for it?
Well, I don't know, folks. I wouldn't consider renting it. Not unless my business partner here says I should.
Oh? Nicky Wicky. Did anybody ever tell you you're gorgeous?
Yes, my wife.
Oh, that doesn't count.
With me, it does. I can't make up my mind without her advice.
Nora. Grodnoisky. You adore her.
But I do. Would you like to be worshipped? I can make you a star overnight.
Well, I'm afraid we're not interested. You see, we came up here to get away from all the excitement and insanity of the city.
Madame, wouldn't you like to be a great star?
Well, every woman would like to be a great actress, but I'm different.
Well, if you won't help us, won't you at least listen to our tale of woe? Tell me, have you ever heard of Floyd Fresnay?
Fresnay? Hasn't he something to do with the movie?
Why, yes, Nick. He's some sort of big-time agent.
He is a movie mogul, and he is backing this company. We are supposed to develop new movie stars, and when he finds out that we have no bar, oh, Myra, weep at them to show them how unhappy we are.
You mean no theater, no chance at Hollywood?
That's right, Nora. Of course, I despise the coast and the cinema with its pots of gold and lack of artistic standards.
But if Floyd Fresnay signed you up to go out there...
I'd gladly murder my dear grandma to get there.
Now, do you understand? We expect to see Floyd Fresnay, and you mean it. He was going to come by for a dress rehearsal.
Hey, look, Grodnoisky. Isn't that Mr. Fresnay's car now?
Yes. Myra, think of some brilliant excuse for this catastrophe.
Well, shall I tell him that we worked with an ardor so burning that the barn caught fire?
Hello there, FF. Greetings, Grodnoisky. I have a wonderful explanation why the barn burned down. You've heard of the Chicago fire, no doubt?
Heard of it. I saw it. In Technicolor. Colossal.
Well, the same thing happened to us. Who would dream that there is a distant relative to Mrs. O'Leary's cow?
Just a moment. No improvising. Everybody quiet. Who is she?
Nora Charles.
Come here, child.
Me?
Yes. Bare your teeth.
There.
Do they bite?
You ought to find out.
No.
Then get your hands off my face.
I'm just feeling the bony structure.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
Who is he?
Her husband.
Get rid of him.
Listen, Fresnay, who do you think you are?
Tell me, my man, does your wife have a figure as good as it looks? What? Well, you ought to know, does she?
I certainly have.
Grodnoisky, this woman has the most photogenic face and figure I've seen in 20 years. She's a new garbo. I want to see her give a performance in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, mind you. Find another barn. I'll pay all the bills. Adios.
Adios, FF. Nora, this is the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, and you'll be able to give us all a break.
Well, really,
Think of it. Your name in life. Platinum swimming pool. Sable underwear.
Do you think I'm a foolish, silly girl like all the other girls in the world?
Yes. You're patriotic, aren't you?
I certainly am.
Then think of this. Your income taxes alone will make the government rich.
Mr. Grednoisky, I'd love to help you and your friends, but if you think I ever had any ambitions to be an actress, adored by the world, thrilling audiences, having my name and picture in the papers, just being too wonderful, you're absolutely right. Ev, how soon can we get the cattle out of your barn?
You are listening to the new adventures of the Thin Man, presented for your summertime entertainment by the makers of that international favorite, Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer. Say, Mr. Orchestra Leader, would you mind blowing that little pitch pipe of yours? Thank you. Now, again, please. And again. That's right. No matter how many times you sound that same note, it's always exactly alike. Just as every bottle, every glass, every taste of Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer is always exactly alike, no matter where or when you buy it. The reason for that fresh, clean, sparkling taste, that perfect uniformity, goes back to the little tune Nicky was strumming on the piano at the beginning of this program. 33 fine brews blended into one great beer. Just think, every glass, every drop of Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer contains never less than 33 fine brews. So be sure there's plenty of blended, splendid Pabst Blue Ribbon cooling in your refrigerator, ready to serve to those unexpected guests when they drop in on a summer evening. And now for Act 2 of tonight's Thin Man adventure. 2 weeks have passed since Nora was bitten by the acting bug, and we find her now studying her part in the play that the great Russian director Grednoisky and his actors are going to put on in Eb Williams' barn.
But I do think you're terribly, irresistibly smushing, Lord Cornish Simple Berry. A gay laugh. You think that last ha was a trifle phony, Nick?
I think the whole thing's phony.
Oh, well, you're just saying that because Grednoisky only gave you a small part and I'm playing the lead.
Nora, do you really want to become a movie star?
Do you think I'd be acting this silly if I didn't?
But, darling, despite Floyd Fresnay, you just can't be a star overnight.
Grednoisky thinks I can, and he knows much more about it than you do, dear. And don't talk to me this way. You get me out of the mood. How's that?
Sounds like a coloratura soprano gargling with Drano.
Nicky, how dare you say a thing like that to me? We're opening tonight.
Now, Nora, don't get temperamental again.
Well, I've got to be temperamental. Every star's temperamental. And I'm furious with you. Give me something to smash.
Here. I collected some old glasses that Eb doesn't need. He says they're good for smashing.
Thank you. That's better. Now, but I do think you're terribly, irresistibly smushing, Lord Cornish Simple Berry. Gay laugh, I'll do. Nicky, don't you want me to be a movie star?
Well, darling, frankly, no.
Why not?
Why, I hardly ever see you anymore.
Well, naturally, my career, you know.
But, baby, you dragged me up here to take care of me. I'm being neglected. You know what happens to neglected wives.
You're not a wife, you're a husband. Don't you know anything, Nicky?
Well, you know what happens to neglected husbands. The same thing as happens to neglected wives.
Oh, don't be silly, dear.
Will you stop that laughing, please?
Nicky, behave yourself or I'll get temperamental again.
Now, listen, baby, I don't think you should go on with this.
I knew it. You're jealous because I've got a career.
Okay. I'm jealous.
Well, darling, I let you have a career as a detective for years, and now you won't let me become a movie star. Is that fair?
No, darling.
Well, then why do you want me to give it up?
Because...
Don't you think I'm any good?
Frankly?
Frankly,
no. I said it, and I'm glad.
Give me a glass, please, Nicky.
Here, dear. Get rid of your disappointment. Hey, don't aim at my head. Nora, cut it out. I changed my mind. You're great.
I knew you'd alter your opinion. Oh, I'm decent.
Howdy, Nori. You're wanted on stage for rehearsal. And And guess what? One of the actors just quit, and Mr. G, he give me a part, too. I'm going to be Duke Lucyfoot Grenadier. Mr. G thinks I got a lot of plain, common, ordinary nobility.
Mr. G is a genius at discovering talent.
Yeah?
And, Nick, if you think I'm no good, just watch what happens at this dress rehearsal. But I do think you're terribly, irresistibly smoshing, Lord Cornish Simple Berry. Gay laugh.
All right, Nora, we will take the big jealousy scene between you and Myra. Now remember, Nikolaus is your latest flame who doesn't burn hot enough. And Ebenezer is your philosophical advisor who hates you and loves you both together. Who said that?
Nobody, Mr. G. That's just one of my ducks.
I wish I were sure of that. It sounded like someone was whispering Russian insults in a loud voice.
Hear that? I taught the duck to talk Russian.
Well, that explains it. Come on with the scene.
So, you dare enter my home, Penelope?
Yes, Lady Chatterleythorpe, to claim that which is rightfully mine.
Duke Lucyfoot Grenadier, you have never given me bad advice. What shall I do, my dear Duke?
Ebenezer, do you have a cold?
No, that's just my cow peeking in the door.
Oh, he would make a wonderful actor. Beautiful voice. Proceed.
Throw the little scamp out in the gutter, from whence she rose, my dear, dear Lady Chatterleythorpe.
Lady Chatterleythorpe.
Yes, Colonel Biscay Rendangle?
I can bear it no longer. Won't you call me Rumpy Dumpy as you did when we romped in the castle together in our childhood?
I will never call you Rumpy Dumpy again. That is all part of our hideous past. Colonel Biscay Rendangle?
I deny that. To me, you will always be Princess Bunny-Gunny, the golden-haired girl who taught me about life under the castle moat. What did you say, Godnoisky?
Nothing. It was the goat out there.
Oh, that's funny. He sounded just like you.
I have a more beautiful voice than that miserable goat.
Oh, yeah, Mr. G? Let me tell you, that's one of the finest goats in Crabtree County. I bet you can't make a noise as fine as that.
I certainly can.
The goat sounds better.
Myra, are you turning against me too?
Can I help it if the goat has a lovely vocal organ?
Will you stop this? The curtain goes up in 2 hours, and I'm forced to talk to Nanny Goat. Shut up! Speak!
Lady Chatterleythorpe, you are cruel beyond words, and I don't care what happens to me, even if I pay for this with my life. So there. Oh!
No, that's no way to scream when you're shot.
But I was trying to do it with a British accent.
Aye, Grednoisky, we'll show you how to make screams with an English accent. Like this.
Ah!
You see? You must scream like a lady.
Ah!
No!
Oh! No!
With passion! That's better.
That was the rooster. Oh, you think I'm terrible, don't you? You think I can't act as well as that rooster?
I didn't say that.
Well, you're not much better than that nanny goat. Why do you let those animals come in here and upset me? I hate you all.
Nora, darling, come back here.
Cock-a-doodle-doo yourself! I'll eat you someday.
Nora, darling, let me into your dressing room. Please, baby. I've got to talk to you.
Nicky, hasn't she come out of there yet?
No, Myra. I've been trying to get in ever since she ran out of the dress rehearsal, but she won't open the door. When's the curtain?
In just a few minutes, and the people are coming in now. Floyd Fresnay is out there.
Throw the little scamp out into the gutter from whence she rose, dear. Dear Lady Chatterleythorpe. Business. Hi, Nick. How's Nora?
She still won't talk to me. Eb, if she won't let me see her, I won't be able to go on either.
Well, me too. I can't go on with these nervous upsets. How can they expect me to give a performance?
You got nerves, too?
Yes, I have. I never had them till I become an actor, though.
Oh, how can she face those people with no confidence in herself? And I helped destroy her confidence. Nora! Nora, darling, open the door.
Hey, look, she's turning the handle. The door's opening.
Good evening, fellow players. If you wish to see me, enter.
Nora, darling.
I just want you to know, Nicholas, that despite your cruel and heartless discouragement, I shall give a performance that will make people's hair stand up. And no one will ever know that I'll be acting with an aching, breaking heart.
You will, Nora?
I will, Ebenezer.
Oh, gee. You're a great trooper, Nora.
Thank you, my little dear.
And, Nicky, sit on that chair
Okay, but why?
so that I can get on your lap. Like this.
Myra, what's the idea?
Yes, this is indeed unusual behavior, even for an ingenue.
I'm doing it so that he can spank me easier. Nora, it was I who ruined all your rehearsals. I put food near the theater to make the animals come in the barn. I did it to ruin your career.
Oh, professional jealousy.
And I greased the outside of your dressing room hoping that you'd break your leg. Oh, I've been awful. Because I studied your part and I wanted to play it and go to Hollywood and live in a mink-lined swimming pool. Now spank me, Nicky.
It will be a pleasure.
Thank you.
You don't have to enjoy it that much, Nick.
2 minutes and the curtain goes up, Nori. The house is sold out. Good luck.
Well, Nori, we all want you to go out there and show them people what you can do.
There are people out there? Real, live people?
Hundreds of them.
Oh, Nick, catch me. I think I'm dying.
Well, Nora, I'm encumbered.
I got it.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Myra, thank heavens you told me you know my part. For heaven's sake, go out there and play it.
What?
My dear child, I am going to sacrifice my career for yours. Anyone who wants to live in a mink-lined swimming pool as much as you do deserves to.
Yippee! Give me your costumes, Nora. I gotta change. I'll send you a free autograph from Hollywood. Oh!
What happened, Myra? Did you break your little neck?
No, I slipped on the grease I put there to break your leg.
Nora, darling, I think this is wonderful of you. What made you do it?
I'll tell you after the show, but that's all part of our hideous past, Colonel Biscay Randango.
Well, I can just imagine Nora telling Nick all about it after the show over a sparkling glass of Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer that's blended from never less than 33 fine brews. There's nothing quite so refreshing on a hot summer night as a cold bottle of Pabst Blue Ribbon and a bowl of salty pretzels, or a plate of crackers spread with some nippy cheddar cheese. You know, not only Nicky and Nora, but many stars of the radio, the stage, and movies enjoy Pabst Blue Ribbon beer in their homes. For instance, Gregory Peck, after a busy day on the studio set, likes to head for his ice box and a tall, foaming glass of Pabst Blue Ribbon. Wherever you go, from Hollywood to Honolulu, from Philadelphia to the Philippines, this famous beer is an international favorite. The beer that gives you 33 fine brews in every glass, every time. Taste it. Compare it. See why millions have settled down to blended, splendid Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. And now for the conclusion of tonight's Thin Man adventure.
Myra was wonderful as Lady Chatterthorpe. Didn't you think so, Nicky?
Mm-hmm. I'm glad she got that contract from Floyd Fresnay.
She really played that part much better than I could have.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that, baby. You would have been great in it.
You didn't think so this afternoon.
I think so now, dear.
Oh, yes, when it's safe.
Well, Nora, I must confess, what worried me this afternoon was that you might have become a great star and you'd never have time to bother me or drive me crazy.
You really mean that, Nicky?
Yes, Nora.
Well, that's why I gave up my career, darling. I think you're much sweeter than a mink-lined swimming pool.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Nicky.
Yes, dear.
Oh!
Nora, what's the matter? What's wrong?
I just wanted to show you I could do that scream properly. Oh! You see?
That's wonderful, Nora. The world lost another Helen Hayes in you.
I know it, my dear. I know it. But it's no more than any wife can do.
You mean every wife is a great actress?
She has to be, darling. And no professional acting in front of an audience could even touch the performances the average wife puts on for her husband.
You've got something there, dear. By the way, how'd you like me tonight?
Frankly, dear.
Frankly?
Frankly, you're a great detective.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'll have you know that Floyd Fresnay was deeply touched by my interpretation of the role of Colonel Biscay Rendango.
Touched where, in the head?
He wants me to go to Hollywood.
What are they looking for, a new Boris Karloff?
You don't seem to realize what a talented man you're married to.
Oh, yes, I do, Nick. Are you going to take the offer?
No, baby. I'm giving up acting for the same reason you did. You're lovelier than sable underwear.
Why, thank you, Nicky. You know, dear, I don't think Lunt and Fontaine can throw as beautiful baloney to each other as we do. Here's your Oscar. Good night, Nicky, darling.
Be sure to listen next Tuesday night when Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer brings you another happy, merry Thin Man adventure starring Les Tremayne and Claudia Morgan. Next week, the adventure of the multiple marriage, when Nick and Nora acquire a daughter and discover that it's easier to stay married than to marry someone else. The Adventures of the Thin Man is brought to you by the Pabst Brewing Company of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Newark, New Jersey, and Peoria, Illinois. And this is Ed Hurley saying good night, with the best wishes of Pabst Blue Ribbon dealers from coast to coast. Friends, every half hour, 3 people are stricken with tuberculosis. Yes, that's the deadly menace of TB, 1 victim every 10 minutes, 50,000 victims each year. The lives lost through tuberculosis can be saved. The disease is curable. To stop contagion, those ill with TB must be found and treated. The sooner TB is detected, the quicker and easier the cure. Protect your health and your family's health. Have your chest x-rayed today.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Welcome back. Well, this was one of the funniest shows we played here. However, there wasn't a whole lot of mystery to it. And shortly after the show, after this particular episode, they would begin to integrate more mystery and abandon the process of moving away from the actual detective stories. But still, the title of the show is Great Detectives of Old Time Radio, and Nick Charles, clearly a great detective. Well, good news is we'll be back to more normal detective stories next week when we begin our next series, The Adventures of the Abbotts. That is coming 1 week from today, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Well, we do have some listener comments to get to. This comes from Wesley, who writes in, I can't say enough of how much I enjoy your podcast. My grandmother just recently turned 99, and I had her listen to The Thin Man to see if it brought back any memories. She loved it, but said it doesn't bring back any memories. She remembers the early 30s like it was yesterday, and during World War II, she's a bit forgetful. Anyhow, when I listen to old time radio, I try and picture myself living during the time the episode was broadcast. Thank you so much for what you do to bring old time radio to new generations. Well, thank you so much, Wesley. And that'll do it for now from Boise, Idaho. Before we do get started, I want to let you know about Audible. With Audible, you don't have to be able to find the time to sit down and read to enjoy the thrill of reading. With Audible, you have the option to access more than 90,000 titles. So whether you want to enjoy a light mystery novel or hear a book of foreign policy, you can do so. Plus, you get a special Audible members discount on all of your other audiobook and old-time radio purchases. You can try Audible out for free for 2 weeks and get a free audiobook. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. Well, we're going to get into today's adventure with Nero Wolfe, the Beautiful Archer.
There's a full serving of laughs on the menu at Duffy's Tavern tonight with Archie the Manager, played by Ed Gardner. Archie's colleagues in comedy are Miss Duffy, Clifton Finnegan, and Eddie the Waiter. This Sunday, The Big Show comes your way once again on NBC. And just listen to a few of the stars who'll be with you. Fred Allen, Jack Carson, Mindy Carson, Ed Archie Gardner, Ed Wynn, and many, many more. And, of course, your MC will be Tallulah Bankhead. Listen Sunday for The Big Show. Ladies and gentlemen, that phone bell means exciting adventure. Hello? Hello? The handsome young man answering the phone is Archie Goodwin. A mountain of a man engrossed in deep thought in the oversized armchair is Nero Wolfe.
Hey, boss. Oh, Mr. Wolfe. Mr. Wolfe. There's a guy on the phone wants us to take a case. Seems that someone was mad at a guy who was mad, and now this guy on the phone is mad, wants us to find out who did the killing. What do you say, Mr. Wolfe? We need the money. Hello? Yes, Mr. Wolfe says he'll be happy to take the case. Just present yourself and a check for $2,000 at 601 West 35th Street at 11 o'clock. Mr. Wolfe can't wait till you get here. He's dying to go to work. Goodbye. Greatest detective in the world. The only trouble is, he is.
Yes, listeners, Archie is so right. He is the greatest detective in the world, and the fattest, and the least energetic. He's Nero Wolfe, created by Rex Stout and brought to you over this NBC network in a new series of adventures by Mr. Sidney Greenstreet. Tonight, it's The Case of the Beautiful Archer. That's a good title. And it was a good case, too. It began in the consulting room of Dr. Raynard Townley of the Townley Sanitarium, skipping a jump north of Nyack, New York, when a very lovely young lovely glared across the desk at the good doctor.
Shall we pretend you don't know who I am, Dr. Townley?
How could we possibly do that, my dear Diana Lawrence? 23 years old, daughter of one of our better-known sculptors, Michael Lawrence. You were born in Johannesburg, educated in London and Paris, and live at present 100 yards from here in your father's cottage on Berry Hill Lane. How's that?
It's intended to be staggering, isn't it?
You take no cream or sugar in your coffee, were winner of the Women's National Archery Tournament for 1947, and have an exceedingly high temper.
Let's stop the nonsense. You have an inpatient here named Willard Garth. Well, Willard Garth happens to be my fiancé.
Yes, he has mentioned the fact during his analysis.
And, well, has he by any chance mentioned his reasons for suddenly refusing to see me during the past 5 weeks?
He didn't have to, Miss Lawrence.
Well, what do you mean?
I mean that I recommended he give you up as a bad job.
What? Well, I suppose you had some purpose in saying what you did.
Of course. I'm the boy's doctor. You think you're in love with Willard Garth, I know, but actually, you're infatuated with the Garth millions.
You take a lot on yourself, don't you, Doctor?
I consider it important to relieve Willard of all painful external pressure.
You've done well for Willard, Dr. Townley, relieving him of me.
I think so.
Now, let's see you relieve yourself of me.
You, purchased the gun for this occasion, Miss Lawrence?
Yes.
And what exactly do you hope to accomplish with it?
A quick and complete reversal of your decision about me. I'm not as easy to handle as Willard is, you see. And if you intend to ruin my life, then I intend to end yours, here and now.
The phone is ringing.
Let it ring.
Just as you say. It's the house phone, Miss Lawrence. It may be Willard, you know.
Oh, Willard?
Yes, he usually phones me from his room at about this time every day.
Well, all right. Answer it, but be careful what you say.
You're in command, it seems. Hello? Oh, why, hello. I thought it would be you, Willard. Look, my boy, Diana Lawrence is here. I've had a talk with her, and I've reconsidered my opinion. Yes, I'm quite serious. If you're at all sensible, you see her regularly and plan on a marriage as soon as you're discharged. Yes. Oh, you do? Very well. I'll see if she'll talk to you. Miss Lawrence.
Yes?
Do you want to speak with him?
Give me the phone.
Of course. Here you are, and I'll take this gun. There we are. Now, stand away, Miss Lawrence.
But Willard's on the phone.
Willard is not on the phone. No one was on the phone. The ring came from the push-button bell under my desk here.
Oh.
Sometimes I find it convenient to interrupt my consultations with a phone call.
Oh, you smug, deceitful, self-sufficient...
Murder is a vexatious business. You'll be grateful to me one day.
All right. Give me my gun and let me go.
The gun, I'm afraid, stays with me. Here in this Majolica cabinet. I'd scarcely feel justified in trusting you with it. And now, with your permission, or without it, the interview is ended.
Later that day, the phone in the Lawrence house on Berry Hill Lane began to jingle. This time it was no phony.
Hello?
Diana?
Yes?
Willard, darling. Diana, darling, it's Willard.
Imagine. Has the doctor let you use the telephone just as if you were a great big adult?
Oh, I've got to see you, sweetheart, and I didn't call you to argue. Love, beauty, understanding, that's what matters. Isn't it? Isn't it?
Do I hear the overtones of a change of heart?
Oh, Diana, what's happened wasn't my fault. He poisoned me against you.
Then why don't you walk out of that amateur nut house and stand up like a man?
I probably shall, Diana. Now, please listen to me. He's letting me have the limousine tonight from 8 until 12. I want us to go for a ride and talk and talk and talk until everything is clear. Clear as a bell, my baby.
Don't tell me he's trusting you to drive.
Oh, no. No, one of the handymen here will chauffeur us. Oh, say you'll come, Diana. Will you? Say it. Say yes. Say you will.
Well, yes, Willard. I'll be glad to.
8 o'clock, then?
8.
Oh, bless you. Bless you, my angel.
Oh, so that's it. You want my father's money. That's what you love, not me.
Willard, the chauffeur will hear you.
It's the way Townley says it is. He's right. He's right.
Oh, why did I let you talk me into this? What a fool I was to have come at all. You're sick inside, Willard, so utterly, hopelessly sick.
Oh, so now I'm hopelessly sick.
Yes, you are.
You're trying to confuse me. Take advantage of me. Wind me around your finger. Just because I love you too much. That's it. That's my illness. Of course, I see it now. You're the thing I must get rid of. You with your beautiful, beautiful face and your twisted values. You're at the bottom of all my agony.
Willard! Willard!
I'm saving myself. I'm saving myself. Once you're dead, the sickness is ended. I'll be safe. I'll be safe. I'll be safe.
Willard.
Dr. Townley?
Yes.
Come in. Mr. Wolfe's been expecting you.
Come in, Dr. Townley. Come in. Have a chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. I'm so happy you've agreed to take this case.
Have a glass of beer.
Oh, no. Never at this time of morning, thank you.
Well, Doctor, the newspapers check with what you told me. The girl and young Garth went out for a ride in your limousine last night. The car was driven by one of your handymen.
That's right. Haynes, his name is.
And they never came back. Young Garth was found dead in the car with 2 bullets in him. The girl was gone, and also Haynes, the handyman chauffeur, huh?
Correct, sir.
Have you any idea where he could be?
No, sir.
And the young lady, tell me about her.
She's Diana Lawrence, daughter of Michael Lawrence.
The sculptor?
The sculptor. She lives with him in a small cottage near my sanatorium on Berry Hill Lane. An extremely aggressive and self-centered female with more than a slight flair for violence.
Your description might easily lead me to suspect her of this murder, sir.
Well, I'm aware of that. And I don't think you'll be far off the mark. As I told you on the phone, she tried to murder me yesterday morning.
The police have made no headway in locating her?
No, the homicide division has contacted her father, but He's remained quite noncommittal. He simply says that he's sure she's incapable of killing a fly and that he hasn't laid eyes on her since 8 o'clock last night.
Highly suspicious behavior.
She was unquestionably in the car with young Garth when he was murdered.
He wasn't alone in the car with him.
You're referring to Haynes?
Yes, but he can't be found either, remember?
It appears that he failed to list his address on his job application. But somehow, Mr. Wolfe, I'm quite sure he'll show up this afternoon.
Somehow, Dr. Townley, if I were you, I wouldn't be quite so sure. We must begin by facing the initial problem of locating our suspects. Archie.
Yes, sir?
Get out the car and drive up to the house on Berry Hill Lane.
And then?
There you will ask Mr. Michael Lawrence to be sensible enough to cooperate with us in finding his daughter.
And if the answer is no?
I recommend, Archie, that you flatly refuse to take it.
Mr. Lawrence was no simple baby to handle. He was in a studio when I walked in, chiseling on a statue of a boy and a girl, both wearing less clothes than the law allows. And before I got a chance to state my name, he commenced giving me a free lecture on the marble work of art.
She's good. Really good. She's practically superb. The Ariadne.
The what Ariadne?
The girl in the statue.
Oh.
That's Ariadne, tragic nymph of Greek mythology. Don't tell me you're not familiar with Apollo and Ariadne.
All right, I won't.
The Apollo, on the other hand, is unfinished. The face, you see, it lacks something. The passion of yearning, Olympian desire. And yet, you know, the two figures have motion.
Like your daughter?
Eh?
Your daughter, Diana, she's got motion also. As I hear it, she's been in motion ever since she murdered Willard Garth last night in the back end of a limousine.
So you're another flatfoot.
Not exactly. I'm paid in private by Nero Wolfe.
Nero Wolfe?
Yeah.
You don't mean that a creditable man like Wolfe thinks Diana killed young Garth?
Well, he'd like to talk over the possibility with her.
How laughable. Look at that face. Is there anything of the murderous in a face like that?
In a face like what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Diana posed for the Ariadne, you see. And the likeness is exact. You think a girl of this type, classic, sensitive, civilized, could descend to the clumsy, brute level of murder?
Well, it's a little hard to imagine.
There. Even you agree with me.
On the other hand...
Shall we discuss the other hand over a cup of coffee? I'm quite exhausted.
If you insist.
I do. Sit down and inhale the atmosphere of culture at its source. There's a pot warming on the stove.
Pot of what? Coffee or culture? Wait to see what he means. Never ignore a phone call. Who knows? Might be something important. Yes?
This is Diana, Father.
Oh, yes, Diana.
It's all over the papers.
Yes, I know.
Well, I don't think they'll find me where I am, and I'm staying here until things quiet down a little.
Where are you, honey?
What did you say?
I said, where are you?
You said honey. Daddy, you never call me honey.
I know it's because I'm excited. Where are you, sweetheart?
Well, you mustn't let anybody find out.
Not a soul in the world. Where are you?
Well, you know where Tyne Pike turns off to the left beyond Bardsville?
Yes?
Well, I'm...
Call me later, Angel.
But, Father,
Oh, get that motorman's number.
You will live, my friend, but not long if you don't control your curiosity.
You hit me. With that mallet you hit me. What was the big idea?
Do you really have to ask that question? Weren't you trying to trick my daughter into disclosing her whereabouts?
The police are pretty interested in her whereabouts.
Then let them find her. But you can't be surprised, my friend, if I choose to protect Diana's interests.
So he's working on an Apollo and Ariadne, is he, Archie?
Who cares about Apollo and Ariadne? The point is how he worked on my gourd.
That, of course, was unfortunate, my boy, but... You get that, piece?
Mm-hmm. Hello?
Inspector Kramer.
Hold it. For you. Here.
Yes?
Wolfe?
How are you, Inspector?
I hear you're in on the Garth killing.
Not very deeply, I am afraid. We're still trying to locate the Lawrence girl.
Well, you can forget about that.
Yeah?
Yes, we've already located her and released her on a habeas corpus.
That sounds interesting.
Her father had a lawyer on her head
heads before she was in here 10 minutes.
Too bad you couldn't have held on to her.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not so sure we want her.
Why not?
Well, first of all, it's not likely she did it.
No?
No. Ballistics stated that the bullets that killed Willard Garth were not fired from point-blank range. And she was sitting beside him on the back seat.
I see.
Also, we found the murder weapon in the grass near where the limousine was parked, and she admitted it was hers.
That sounds like a poor reason to release her.
Well, the point is she wasn't in possession of the gun when the killing happened. At least so she says.
No, who what?
That doctor.
What doctor?
Townley. The guy who runs that sanitarium. According to her, he took the gun away from her for safekeeping at noon yesterday.
There was a little more talk between them, something about fresh cigar ashes that were found in the dashboard ashtray of the limousine. After that, the boss hung up and exerted himself enough to put a call through to the Townley Sanatorium.
I'm afraid the doctor is very busy just now.
So am I, and my business happens to be highly important.
Well, I'll say you called, Mr. Wolfe, and I'll ask him to contact you just as soon as he has a free moment.
Do you happen to have a free moment, miss?
Why, well, yes, sir.
Could you spend it by telling me if that handyman, Mr. Haynes, is being located?
Why, yes, as a matter of fact, he has. One of the staff just found out where he lives, Mr. Wolfe.
Well?
He has a little cottage at 206 Dockside Road. That's out near Sheepshead Bay.
Thank you. Archie.
I'm going someplace, I suppose?
You are? You're going to Sheepshead Bay.
Hello there. Looking for a guy I can't find.
Oh?
Yeah, his name is Haynes. Stopped at the cottage up there, but there's no one there. I saw you here on the wharf fishing, so
What did you say his name is?
Haynes. Haines.
Oh, Haynes.
Yeah, do you know him?
Well, there's a fella named Hines used to fish out here.
No, not Hines. Haynes.
Couldn't be Huntingburg?
No, it couldn't be. The name is Haynes. Hain.
Haynes, give me a hand here, eh?
Well, what do you know?
Funny, huh? That guy seems to think my name is Haynes.
Yeah, so do I.
You do?
Yes, I... I got back to our house soaked to the skin and minus Haynes, and just in time to see the boss in the exhausting process of walking across the room to answer the phone.
Hello?
This is Dr. Townley. You called me.
So I did.
About the murder?
More specifically, about the statement from Diana Lawrence that you removed a firearm from her possession yesterday morning.
Oh, that's quite correct. It's here in my Majonica cabinet.
Is it?
Of course it is.
I suggest you check.
Just a moment. Mr. Wolfe.
Yeah?
I'd like to see you at once.
The gun, I suppose, has vanished.
What? How did you know?
Because it is a ballistics doctor. It turned out to be the gun that killed Willard Garth.
I see.
Do you?
Yes. I understand everything now. It's all so crystal clear.
Just how crystal clear?
I'm quite certain, Mr. Wolfe, that I can put my finger on the killer.
And I think it would be well if you came here immediately.
No, I'm afraid it's impossible, sir. There's an important operation scheduled, and I simply cannot leave.
What do you suggest?
Well, is it outside the realm of possibility that you come here? Is it, Mr. Wolfe? Hello, Mr. Wolfe. Mr. Wolfe?
When my boss has to leave the house, it's a major tragedy. Sometimes he rages, sometimes he curses the whole detective business, lock, stock, and barrel. And sometimes he keeps very quiet and grips the side of the car desperately and tries not to inhale any fresh air. This was one of the quiet times.
Just go slowly, Archie, but get there as quickly as you can.
Oh, you don't want a chauffeur, Mr. Wolfe. What you need is a magician.
Keep your eye on the road and don't strain yourself to make superfluous witticisms.
Why don't you try relaxing a little? I hear there hasn't been a man-eating tiger sighted on the Sawmill River Parkway in the last 500 years.
Your liberty is out of order. Don't try to make light of a deplorable situation.
Here's the sanatorium. And there's Dr. Townley coming to meet us.
It's terribly nice of you to have come, Mr. Wolfe. I've heard about your aversion to traveling, and I appreciate your going to the trouble.
Don't mention it. Oh, Archie, help me out with my other arm.
There we are. Now, calm down. You're all in one piece.
I think you'll find the trip highly profitable, Mr. Wolfe. You'll consider it time very well.
Hey, what's the matter?
What is it? What happened?
He's been shot.
Hardly likely. There wasn't a sound.
This kind of shot doesn't make a sound, boss.
What do you mean?
Better take a look for yourself. There's an arrow in his back, and he's dead. We remembered that Dr. Townley had said Diana Lawrence had won the Women's National Archery Tournament for 1947. The Lawrence house was visible through the trees 100 yards away, so we started for it and the sculptor's studio. There's no one around.
So this is his latest effort, Apollo and Ariadne.
Yeah. Done a little work on it since I was here. The Apollo's face is more finished and... Hey, boss.
Yes?
You know, somehow or other, Apollo looks a little familiar.
I wouldn't be surprised, Archie. I think if you examine it closely...
Mr. Wolfe.
Our host.
You remember me, don't you? I met you once at a dinner party at your house, the time they opened the new museum on 67th Street.
Of course, Mr. Lawrence.
And to what do I owe the honor?
It's not much of an honor. Dr. Townley has been murdered.
No.
I am afraid Mr. Goodwin is being accurate.
He's been murdered with a bow and arrow. And what does that mean to you, Mr. Lawrence?
I'm sorry. I've been a fool. An awful fool.
You can't blame yourself too much. If you'd cooperated with the police instead of looking out for your daughter's interest, the man would still be alive.
But I assure you that...
Where's the girl?
She should be here now. She phoned me a while ago and said she was coming by for passage money to Rio.
You were looking for me?
Boss, Diana. Put the gun down, Angel.
And tie a rope around my neck?
Might I inquire if your plan is to kill us all, Miss Lawrence?
Oh, what would yours be if the world was after you for something you didn't do?
Wouldn't you be willing to risk persuading a jury of that?
Thanks, no. I'll skip that chance. Father, get me the money.
Diana, sweetheart, don't make me a part of your murders. That's asking too much of love.
Don't you know I'm not guilty?
No, Diana, I don't.
Leave that gun away, Diana.
Haines.
Looks like I walked in on the nose.
That's him, boss, the guy who soused me.
Take a little of your own advice. Relax, Archie. What do you want here, Mr. Haines?
I want to give up and try to straighten out this little deal. Mr. Lawrence.
Yes?
Here's your money back. You got a right to call me a welcher. I promised I wouldn't give evidence against the girl, and you paid my price. But enough is enough, and right here and now I'm unloading.
Just what does this mean?
It means I saw her do it.
Oh, you stupid, lying, rotten...
Oh, yeah.
Grab her, Archie. Grab her. Get the pair of them out of here.
What can I say to myself now? What can I do?
I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence, but it's not necessary to eat your heart out. Many fathers before you have done their best and failed.
But I had a special duty toward Diana.
Special duty?
Yes. Well, you see, you'll find it out sooner or later, so I'd best tell you now. I'm not her real father. I adopted her 9 years ago when she was 14.
I see.
And I should never have done it. I realize now that I wasn't equal to the task.
Well, all's not lost yet. They may not convict her, you know.
Eh?
I said they may not convict her.
But how could they fail to convict her? She killed Garth, didn't she?
Did she?
She shot him?
But the gun was in Townley's possession.
She could easily have stolen that. She could have broken into his office later. It wasn't locked.
What wasn't locked?
The Majolica cabinet. I
believe you mean what you said, Lawrence, the Majolica cabinet. For the life of me, I can't see how you could know whether it was locked or not, unless you had the experience of opening it. Could it be that you went looking for the gun yourself after Townley said he had confiscated it? That you killed Townley with a bow and arrow, which you handle as well as your daughter, because he was just on the point of telling me that you knew where the gun was, and that you were the likeliest murder suspect?
You must be mad.
Oh, sir, not I. But you are mad and more than a little. You hated Willard Garth. It was you who were making the marriage impossible. You load them, and in the end you kill him.
How could I have killed him?
I'll tell you a little secret, Mr. Lawrence. The police found cigar ash in the dashboard tray of the death car. Chemical analysis showed that the ash was from an El Adoro cigar. What have you got in your left hand, sir?
In my... an El Adoro cigar. And in my right hand, a Derringer.
Powerful and admirable little weapon, Lawrence.
I suggest you show proper respect for it by dropping all this here and now.
You don't wish to hear me say the rest, that you were horribly in love with Diana, your own adopted daughter? In love and hopelessly, eternally frustrated? You begrudge me the triumph of accusing you of having bribed Haynes to let you take his place at the driver's seat of the limousine? And further bribed and threatened him into putting on his show of merry pranks and false confessions to confuse us all beyond measure?
You said I loved Diana. Would I do all this to her if I did?
Oh, but of course, such love as yours is really hate. You were content to see her dead rather than relinquish her. Like all miserly, small-hearted men, you would rather kill the thing you love than muster the generosity necessary to seeing it attain happiness.
That's enough out of you.
I should think it was much too much.
It is.
Archie, my boy, I'm grateful to you, both for coming back into the house when you did and for being such a good shot.
Hope you remember that next time you feel like insulting me.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what's with that cigar ash routine? Who told you the ashes in the limousine were from an El Adoro, boss? I never heard anything about that.
As a matter of fact, neither did I. No one could possibly have determined the brand by any chemical means in existence. I knew that, you see, and I took the long chance that Lawrence didn't.
Oh. But I still don't get the mainspring of the deal. How did you know he was in love with Diana?
That was genius. I have to admit it. You see, it all hinged on the statue of Apollo and Ariadne. According to the Greek myth, Apollo fell deeply in love with the nymph, but because they were of different worlds, he was condemned to pursue her always and never to catch her.
Well, what's that got to do with the price of eggs?
Isn't it perfectly obvious? Didn't he tell you that Diana had posed for the Ariadne?
Yeah, but I still don't...
And you yourself remarked on the fact that the finished Apollo looked somehow familiar, didn't you, Archie?
Yeah, I did, boss.
Don't you know why that was?
You mean that...
I mean that Michael Lawrence unconsciously revealed the true state of his heart. He didn't intend to, I suppose. But precisely and accurately, he chiseled the features of the tortured god in his very own image.
Oh.
And speaking of torture...
Yeah?
Will we be home in time for dinner?
Oh, boss, you can't be that hungry.
Oh, yeah, I am. Good heavens, Archie. Do you realize that I haven't eaten since lunch?
You have been listening to The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe, starring Sidney Greenstreet. Tonight's transcribed story by Peter Berry was based on the characters created by Rex Stout. This is an Edwin Fadiman program produced and directed by J. Donald Wilson. In the cast were Larry Dobkin as Archie Goodwin and Gigi Pearson, Ted Von Elst, Bill Johnstone, Peter Leeds, and Jay Novello. Next week at this same time, Nero Wolfe and Archie will bring you The Case of the Brave Rabbit. Don Stanley speaking. There's fun and laughs later tonight when Ed Archie Gardner stars as Archie the manager in Duffy's Tavern. As usual, Duffy won't be there, but Archie will be there, armed with his own whimsical version of the English language. Another Friday favorite you'll hear later is The Delightful Life of Riley, starring William Bendix as Chester A. Riley.
Welcome back. Well, Nero Wolfe got coaxed out of the brownstone, although I'm of opinion that may have been a little bit too easy. Usually, he just simply won't budge. But it added a extra element of excitement and adventure. This one was definitely pretty complicated as they were going back and forth. And while it didn't turn as much as a traditional stout story, it definitely kept me guessing all the way to the end with a pretty satisfactory conclusion. Well, a big thank you to everybody who sent along some nice Christmas greetings. Really appreciate it. And hope you had a great holiday as well. Mary shares an interesting quote that apparently caught on with her 8-year-old. Something I said back when we were doing Box 13 with Alan Ladd as Dan Holiday. My 8-year-old stated as she walked upstairs, "It's not a holiday without Dan Holiday. Merry Christmas." Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. On a related note, we were watching over at the Museum of Television. They have a great video archive, and we were watching a Christmas Carol with Basil Rathbone as Marley and Frederick March as Scrooge. And after Rathbone finished his Marley scene, my wife joked that that was the weirdest disguise she'd ever seen Holmes wearing. Joking on the fact that that was the main thing she had seen Rathbone in before that. So, thank you so much for all the great comments. One more comment we got on The Man Who Was Thursday. Roy just says, just love anything that Orson does. And really, Orson Welles was one of radio's most unique actors, one of its most distinctive voices. So anything that he got into, just to be able to hear him work, I think makes it value added, and the plot, I guess, just goes right on top of that. We have definitely not heard the last of Orson Welles on this show. All right, well, that'll do it for now. Before we do get started, I want to let you know to be sure and check out our new book, Tales of the Dim Night. It's a great parody/paint homages to great superheroes stories, and if you grew up watching shows like Batman or Underdog or even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you'll find something appealing. We've got sample chapters available and also all available means of purchase, including ebooks at dimnight.com. Well, we're going to get into today's episode of Let George Do It, Laura's House.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Laura's House, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. Change is my stock and trade. If life seems like a hurricane and you can't find a storm cellar, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, my name is Miss Torrance. Next to Bonnie Burke, Francine Melton is my dearest friend. I don't want to leave Francine unless I have to. After all, we've been together for years, ever since the days when we taught in the same grade school together. But, Mr. Valentine, I can't stand it much longer. Francine has become hypnotized. Now, I don't believe in supernatural things, but I can see what will happen to the three of us unless you come to help. There'll be the murmur of ghostly laughter, the growing insanity of constant fear, and sooner or later the screaming arms of death. You see, Francine has been hypnotized by a house. Laura's house.
You George Valentine, Claire Brooks?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, come on, hop in. My name's Bonnie Burke.
Oh, yes. Miss Torrance mentioned your name.
She asked me to meet you. Afraid if she got into this one-horse shay, it'd break down.
Oh, this is what I call being met in style.
Yeah, come on, Napoleon. I bet you're confused, aren't you? But you see, there's the three of us. Miss Torrance, Francine Melton, and I. We've lived together for years. None of us too lucky at the altar. We all used to teach.
Oh, what happened?
Francine got an inheritance. But the only part of it worth anything was this estate out here. So we all quit our jobs to come out and sell it.
This the place called Laura's house?
Yeah, but don't ask me who Laura was. Somebody dead, that's all I know. Somebody with a doting husband who built it for her years and years ago.
And now the three of you want to sell it.
Well, sure, to get cash. See the world. We're still young. Have fun. And you know, these woods aren't exactly full of men.
Well, Bonnie, how does Francine feel about it? She's the owner now, isn't she?
Well, we've always shared everything. None of us have any relatives, and, well, this place isn't good for Francine.
Why not?
Francine isn't like other people. Now, Torrance is simple. Eats too much and reads too much. Me, I'm just healthy and dumb. But Francine, well, you'll meet her, you'll see. If you can get her to talk to you. Come on, Napoleon.
Bonnie, why isn't Laura's house good for Francine?
It's haunted.
What? Oh, now, wait a minute.
Sounds wacky, doesn't it? But Torrance wrote you the letter. She's the one that got you here, and I'll bet that's what she'll tell you. Whoa. Well, there it is, kids. Laura's house.
Oh, that place can't have spooks.
No. Really something, isn't it?
Why, it's like a great big white doll's house. It's so sunny, and the gardens. Look, George, there's even a tea house and rose arbor.
Yeah, the house in the middle of the woods where 3 witches live. Hey, Fairbanks.
I'm coming, lady. I'm coming.
Fairbanks knows everything there is to know about everything. Here, catch their bags for them.
Hey, take it easy. I'm getting them. Take it easy. Heavier when you throw suitcases down like that, you know. Gravity.
I'll put up the horse and buggy. Show Mr. Valentine where you can find Miss Torrance.
Simple physics, that's all.
Probably in her room, Fairbanks. But remember, we juggled around to make space. Torrance was going to move to the front corner upstairs. Get up. See you later.
Yeah, okay, Bonnie. Thanks.
Crazy school teachers. What'd she say, mister?
What? Well, I think she said that Miss Torrance had moved into the front corner room upstairs.
Find it yourself.
Huh?
Oh, what's the matter?
I wouldn't go near that room. Fact, that's all. Front corner upstairs. That's Laura's room.
Oh, George, it's all so ridiculous. The inside is even prettier than the outside.
Wait a minute. Easy, Brooksy.
Huh?
That must be Miss Torrance there through the open door.
Oh, reading her book. I'll bet it's Edgar Allan. Oh, she's fallen asleep, George.
Miss Torrance. Miss Torrance?
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh.
She's dead.
Oh. Just sitting there. In the sunshine.
There's not a mark on her, Brooksy. Nothing seems to be wrong.
Oh. George. This...
It's a carousel.
Yeah.
Now, what in the deuce is a carousel doing in a place like this?
It's Laura's home.
Oh.
What?
It's Laura's. On the back lawn. Her husband had it built there for her years ago. I love carousels, don't you?
Well, yes.
Hey, you must be Francine Melton.
Yes. Yes, I'm Francine. But you don't have to look at me, you know.
I just didn't realize your leg.
Oh, I'm sorry I said that. I haven't said a thing like that since I was a little girl. But I'm so upset. Torrance is dead, isn't she?
Yes. You already knew?
I found her 5 minutes ago. I've been in my room crying. I phoned the doctor. He said there was nothing I could do.
No, I guess not.
He'll be here as soon as he can, though. He's the coroner, too.
Miss Melton, had she been sick? I mean, well, what happened?
Her heart, didn't you know? She said you were friends of hers coming to visit.
Well, yes, that's right, but...
But then didn't she tell you? She's always had a dangerous heart. Didn't she tell you about her heart?
Oh, Miss Melton, car coming up the drive. Looks like it might be the... Oh.
All right, Fairbanks. That will be all, thank you.
Dead, ain't she? That makes 3 of them dead. 3 of them, I tell you.
Fairbanks, please go.
No, wait a minute. What's he talking about?
I might have known it happened sooner or later. 3 of them dead in the same room. I told you I wouldn't go in there, mister. Death likes that room.
Fairbanks. Oh, those horrible lies. Those awful fantastic things to say, to think.
What sort of things do you think, Miss Melton?
I'm glad my friend died in here. It's a beautiful room. A happy room. Nora was beautiful and happy, too. There's a painting of her there, you see? Nora loved the world. I know she did because she was a cripple just like me. Nora wouldn't want to hurt anyone.
The coroner says you want to speak to me. I'm Ethan Marker, Mr. Valentine.
Oh, yes. I was waiting for his report. Well, he said you were the nearest neighbor out there, Mr. Marker, so I thought perhaps...
I know. You thought perhaps I could tell you about the local ghost.
Yeah.
Laura. Everyone asks. But it's a little different at a time like this, isn't it, Mr. Valentine?
Maybe. I don't know yet. Now, tell me, what's Fairbanks mean? What's he talking about? 2 other deaths in the same room and so on.
Mr. Valentine, Laura was crippled, but not in the soul. And she'd married the handsomest man for miles around. He built the place as a sort of house for his bluebird. The carousel for her to ride around on because she couldn't dance. The island in the wilderness. Now, there are many of us who would like to find such a place.
Yeah, sure, I agree. And it's very interesting, Mr. Marker, but...
All right. Yes, the deaths. After Laura passed on, many legends grew up about her. Naturally, the sheltered one. Fascinating legends, too. But anyway, the house reverted to banks and so on. Only 2 people who bought it tried to live in it. They both died.
How?
Quite mysteriously. One was 90 and had a stroke.
Huh?
The other one shot himself cleaning his own gun. Oh, but I assure you the legends have colored all this. It wouldn't sound the same if Fairbanks told it to you. He'd say Laura did it.
Uh-huh. But you're telling me it's all Tommy rot.
Well, of course. You don't believe in the supernatural, do you?
Okay, Mr. Marker, thanks very much.
Not at all. And now the school teachers. Mr. Valentine, I hope you won't feel it necessary to pry about.
Why not? What do you mean?
Oh, nothing. But you're not just here as a friend, are you? I admire Miss Melton very much.
Oh, I see.
She's beautiful. As Laura must have been. I wouldn't want her annoyed.
All right, Mr. Valentine, here's that report.
Okay, let's have it, Doctor.
Miss Torrance died of a coronary condition, all right. Heart just stopped, that's all.
Oh, sure. But what made it stop?
Well, really, to the layman,
It could have been a shock, couldn't it? If she had a weak heart and somebody told her stories, scared her...
I found no evidence of foul play.
I said scared her, Doctor. Now, she heard something. She saw something. There was a shock that was too much for her.
Mr. Valentine, I've already checked with her city physician. She had a coronary disease. Not nerves, disease.
Mr. Valentine, I have a new car. I'd be glad to give you a lift back to...
Thanks, Mr. Marker. But I think the walk could do me good.
Very well. Come and visit our corner of the woods again sometime.
Good night, Mr. Marker. Oh, Brooksy, I'm back. Brooksy. Yes. Yes, hello.
George, haven't you ever used a house phone before?
Oh.
I saw you out the window coming in the door. Neat, isn't it? They always have them in haunted houses.
Oh, sure.
Well, what happened?
Oh, the coroner says nothing doing. Big false alarm, that's all. Client just dead. Hey, Brooksy, where are you? I mean, I'm in your room. You in mine?
George, I'm in Laura's room.
You know, there are lots of things about her in this room. I mean, besides the painting. George, there's a whole closet full of her clothes. Actually, real last-century things. So old they crack when you touch them.
Okay, Angel, okay. I'll be up and look at the museum.
There are music boxes and a sachet drawer. There are shoes and a funny old wooden bracelet.
Hey, Brooksy, what was that? Hey, do you hear me? What was that?
She's on the lawn. In the moonlight. George, I'm not crazy. I see her. Like the painting. George, I see her. It's Nora.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. When you go on your motoring vacation, rely on Chevron Supreme gasoline to get the best out of your car. This premium quality gasoline is climate-tailored, specially blended to give your car perfect performance at home or 1,000 miles from home. That's because the special blending agents that go into Chevron Supreme are determined by the various altitude and temperature zones in the West. For today's high-compression engines or for older cars that need new power, you can't buy a better gasoline. You'll find Chevron Supreme gives your car faster starts. You'll find it's terrific in traffic for alert getaway, and that it gives your car extra power on hills, ping-free power. Try a tankful tomorrow. On your vacation, remember, you'll find Chevron Supreme at all standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Laura's house, built like a doll's house in the middle of the woods. Built years ago for a woman long dead who once lived to ride on the carousel. But other people who try to live in Laura's domain have a habit of dying, too, like the nervous schoolteacher who wrote you a letter and then passed away of a heart attack before you could talk to her. Well, of course, if you're anything like George Valentine, you don't believe in the supernatural. But you certainly waste no time when your assistant Claire Brooks tells you that she has just seen Laura herself.
No, George, I did see her. Just for a second, out in the moonlight, by the rose garden, walking. Then she disappeared in the shadows.
Brooksy, are you sure?
I swear it. She looked just like the picture, even to the little lace parasol.
Okay, then, Angel. What you saw must have been a real person.
Yeah, well, now that you're here, yes.
Somebody must have got one of these dresses and dolled up for the job. Only why, Brooksy? What's the point of playing ghost, trying to scare people? Who's trying to do what?
Oh, for crying out loud. Well, what are you doing in there, Valentine? Picking out a dress for your girl?
Oh, hello, Bonnie.
I was just getting ready to hit the hay. What's going on? I heard you racketing here. I knew it wasn't mice.
So did I.
Francine.
What was it, Mr. Valentine? What was it?
I'll tell you. I'll tell both of you. I saw a ghost. No, you couldn't have. Don't say such a thing.
What Miss Brooks means is she saw somebody up at the rose garden in one of Laura's dresses.
Maybe Torrance saw something, too. I don't know. The Supple House scared her to death, whatever it was.
It was just her heart.
I don't believe in all this junk, but Torrance did. Oh, I'll be glad when it's all over, when we get out of here. Oh, Sam's so tough and dumb, and maybe I am. But there's something crazy here, something insane, abnormal. And, Valentine, if you don't find out what it is, I'm going to.
Bonnie! Oh, she doesn't understand. No wonder.
Miss Melton, I was telling the truth. There was someone out there.
I saw her.
No. I'm sure you were mistaken.
But I tell you,
no,
I'm not...
stop it, please. This is my house. Well, this isn't easy to say, Mr. Valentine. I hope you understand I'm not trying to offend. But I want you to go. I want you to get out of here. I want you to leave my house. The door. Excuse me.
Evening, lady. Got a message here from Mr. Valentine.
Oh, all right, of course.
Wait a second, I'll get it. That's for me, friend.
Okay.
Okay, here you are. Thanks.
Likewise. Good night.
What is it, George?
Never mind, Brooksy. But, Miss Melton, I guess we might as well take your suggestion. We will get out of here.
Oh, thank George.
We're fairly unpacked anyway, and it's a short walk to town, so you won't have to bother about anything. We'll just plain get out of your hair. That make you happy?
Oh, Mr. Valentine. There's some things too fragile to be touched, that's all.
This looks like a good place for the bags. Gotta make time, Angel. We'll be back for them, so don't worry. And I got a hunch it'll be fast.
George, what was in that message?
Here. Well, there's not enough moonlight to read it, I guess.
Oh, I've got a match.
Note says, come to town in a hurry. Meet a guy at the corner drugstore. It's important.
Who?
The local historian, Angel. Guy named Ethan. Hey, put up that match.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, am I a sucker. You see that? Something shiny? Come on, it's over here. Sure, a car.
Parked in the shadows off the road.
A nice new car. And if I remember rightly... Wait a minute, I'll turn on the dash light. Huh? I do. It's registered to Mr. Ethan Marker.
Then the note was just to lure us into town to get us out of the way.
Yeah. Radiator's still warm, Angel.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get back there. Run.
Okay. Look, there's a light. The upstairs corner room.
Yeah, and we turned that light off when we left up there. Laura's room.
Yeah.
Hey, where do you think you're going?
Fairbanks, where are you going?
Out to my lodge. Get some sleep. Simple facts of nature.
Then you just left the house. Who's up there? Who's in the corner room?
That athletic one. That Bonnie thing. I warned her just like I warned Miss Torrance the day they came here. Stay away from Nora, I says. It's death. Death loves Laura's room.
All right, Banshee, I got the idea.
Up there with the door locked. Says she's going to stay a coon's age if she has to find out what's wrong. Lights won't help. Door lock won't help. I'm telling you, mister.
All right, I said. You don't have to... Hey, what's that in your hand?
Huh?
Shoes. Brooksy, give me those matches.
Yeah, here you are, George.
A woman's shoes.
Of course. Miss Francine's. Found them in the back hallway. Thought I better take them out for a little cleaning.
Yeah, they need it, all right. That's a good idea, Fairbanks. Good night.
There was mud all over those shoes, George.
Yeah, Brooksy, from the rose garden, where ghosts walk.
Francine. Well, come on, George. We've got to get upstairs to Laura's room before...
Hold it, Brooksy, hold it. Now, listen, there was something that Gould said. He said it before. He said he'd warned Miss Torrance about the upstairs room, remember?
Well, yes, but...
Okay, then. This time it begins to make sense. There was something wrong about Torrance's death.
What's that?
I don't mean the heart attack part. I mean her being up there in that room. She was nervous. She was superstitious. When they juggled the rooms around for our coming, she would never have taken that one.
No, she wouldn't.
But, Angel, there's one way that it does make sense. And that's if you figure Torrance took that room after she was dead. You get it?
Yeah.
Somebody moved her body. Somebody who's willing to commit a real murder.
Well, don't just stand there. Hurry up. We've to get upstairs to Bonnie before...
No, there isn't time. I got to think it out. Oh, Lord, Brooksy, I'll have to just plain guess. Come on, the back lawn.
What?
Come on, around this way.
George?
Yeah, the carousel. Lucky guess.
Shh. There she is.
Laura.
It is Francine, isn't it?
Yeah. Riding a white horse. All alone in the moonlight.
Oh, the poor thing. It's the same dress she had on when I saw her. George, look at her. Francine is herself is so shy. And being crippled, she keeps her head down, but now she's smiling. Oh, George, she's beautiful.
Yeah. And somebody else said that to me before. Hey, what's wrong with it?
It's going faster. She'll fall out. Oh, her foot's caught. It'll drag her. It'll kill her.
All right, jump on. Get her, Brooksy. I'll stop it. Brooksy, did you get her? Is she all right?
Yes, George. She's all right. She hasn't fallen yet.
Good. Now take her up to the house. I'll be up in a minute.
Okay, George.
Okay, come on out of there, whoever you are. Come on now, I know you're in there. Oh, no, you don't. Come on, slow down, Sprinter. All right, I don't like to tackle ladies, but you...
Let go of me! Let go!
All right, sit still, sister. Well, so you were supposed to be in Laura's room, were you? Well, Bonnie, you almost did it, didn't you? Almost killed a poor crippled girl. I suppose you were the one who sent me that note signed Ethan Marker to get me out of here so you could do it. And who else around this house would have been strong enough to move Torrance's body into Lawrence's room? Muscle girl?
She was dead. I didn't kill her.
No, but you tried to make it look like she'd been frightened, make Francine feel guilty, hate the place. But none of it worked, did it? She still wanted to stay on.
Valentine, I wasn't trying to kill Francine. Honest, I wasn't.
Yes, you were, Bonnie. You thought you had to.
No.
You knew she'd been secretly tying on those dresses, taking walks in the rose garden. You know she had an accident out here in costume. Everybody'd agree she was nuts.
But she's different. She is strange.
Sure.
Crazy.
The little girl's shy. She's touchy. But she was starting to come out of herself. Those dresses were part of it. They were why you had to get rid of her.
That's not true.
The dresses were making an impression on somebody, weren't they? Somebody who could kick you out. Sure. You had to do away with Francine fast while she still had no relatives. While you were still her closest friend, still in control. Still able to inherit her dough.
Oh, no. I don't know what you're talking about.
Bonnie, you want to bet he's down there now? You want to bet he was already expecting a little sentimental rendezvous with her tonight? That he heard the commotion and came running?
No. Don't, please.
Hey, Mr. Marker. Ethan Marker, you down there?
What's that? Oh, yes, Valentine. Yes.
Oh, why should she find someone? The careless one, the plainest of us.
Chin up, sister. We'll find you a place to live. In jail.
Yes, I know Bonnie needed my money. But perhaps she was right.
Listen, Francine. They've got the carousel fixed again.
And Torrance said so, too. Perhaps I don't belong here. I mean, the things that I'm not. Dreaming.
Milady, the carriage awaits. Your steeds are prancing.
Oh, stop it. It's silly. It's ridiculous. I'm going to sell this awful place. I'm Francine Melton, and I'm plain looking, and I teach Latin. And you don't have to look at me, any of you.
I beg your pardon, miss, but I wasn't addressing you. Will you do me the honor, Laura? Beautiful Laura.
Thank you, sir. You are being most patient with me. I do believe I'd be delighted.
My arm, my dear.
Oh, George. She was beautiful again.
Some things are almost too fragile to touch.
Well, come on. How about a ride for us?
No, not our style. We're built for reality, you and I, Brooksy.
Oh, George, what's not real about a carousel in the wilderness?
You asking me?
But that's exactly what love is, isn't it?
Okay, you win, Angel. Now, lady, will you do me the honor? My arm.
There's nothing like a vacation with a change of scenery and new experiences to give you a grand lift. Too, when your vacation means a motoring trip, there's nothing like knowing your car's engine has the best possible protection. Compounded RPM motor oil. At home or wherever you drive, depend on RPM to keep the entire engine system cleaner. For one of the compounds in this premium quality motor oil is a detergent, a chemical that keeps carbon particles and other abrasives harmlessly dispersed in the oil where they can't damage those mirror-smooth internal engine parts. When you have the crankcase drained, this contamination is drained out with the used oil. So, for a cleaner engine with more mileage and fewer repair bills, get RPM, the motor oil that's first choice in the West. Get RPM at independent Chevron gas stations and at standard stations where they say and mean we take better care of your car. Next week, when George Valentine finds himself on a new job that's as dizzy as a merry-go-round, we'll hear...
You didn't listen to me, Valentine. You're still on the Farrell case.
Now, look, last time we met, Redhead, you were offering me $200 to get off the case. Just whom do you work for, anyway?
You heard me. You're in.
Come on, answer me. Don't be a sucker. You're liable to be caught right in the middle.
That's where you are right now, Valentine. No $200 now. This time I bought a gun.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George with Francis Robinson as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Frank Hale as Miss Torrance, Florence Ravenel as Bonnie, Herbert Butterfield as Fairbanks, William Johnstone as Marker, Lorene Tuttle as Francine, and Stanley Farrar as the coroner. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter, your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This was a very fascinating script. Never ceases to surprise me what we end up getting on Let George Do It. This one, in its detective story, mixed in a couple elements of things you would associate with the horror genre, and then also with a fairy tale. So another well done Let George Do It in the books. Well, I went ahead and I previewed an episode of Sherlock, the BBC new version of Sherlock Holmes, and I'll have some thoughts on that after the show. Before we do get started, I do want to let you know where you can find the best of the Holmes videos, whether you want to see Basil Rathbone or Jeremy Brett, or you want to check out Sherlock. Netflix is the place to go. Netflix is increasing the number of households across the country who are signing up for it. It's a convenient way to get all the videos you want and be able to have it within your budget. If you haven't tried Netflix, do yourself a favor. Go to netflix.greatdetectives.net and try it out. Now we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Clue of the Hungry Cat.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Once again, it's time to drop in for a visit with our old friend, Dr. Watson, storyteller beyond compare and confidant of the immortal Sherlock Holmes. And here he is, waiting to greet us in his familiar study. Good evening, Dr. Watson. I must admit that on such a cold and foggy evening, your fireplace looks even more cheery than usual.
And a very good evening to you, Mr. Bell. Here, come and sit down.
This chair feels good. Thank you, Dr. Watson. Nasty night out.
Yes, it certainly is. In weather like this, I find my old wound gives me an occasional twinge. Giselle bullet, you know. Souvenir of a border skirmish in Afghanistan. Long before you were born, my boy.
I've always been amazed, Dr. Watson, that with all the tight spots you and Sherlock Holmes found yourselves in, you were fortunate enough to escape with only one bullet wound.
Yes, Holmes used to say that I was born to be hanged. But I can remember more than one narrow escape. As a matter of fact, there's a souvenir of one of them right before you on the mantelpiece.
On the mantelpiece? Oh. Small pot of ivy, A framed photograph of you and Mr. Holmes, 2 sporting prints, and a small blue saucer. Not very exciting.
You see, Mr. Bell, but you do not observe, as my friend Sherlock Holmes used to say.
Oh.
That small blue saucer from which an ordinary house cat was accustomed to eat its evening meal was the key that saved an innocent man from the shadow of the gallows and brought a fiendishly clever murderer to justice. You will find it among my notes under the heading of the clue of the hungry cat.
Dr. Watson, I can hardly wait for the story. But first, here's something I'd like to pass along to you men. Every up-and-coming man today wants to look like a success, and neatly groomed hair adds so much to a man's appearance. So may I please suggest Kreml hair tonic? See if you don't agree that there's all the difference in the world in Kreml. Kreml keeps dry, stubborn hair in perfect order from morning till night. It gives hair a nice, attractive luster, too. Yet Kreml never plasters hair down with thick, dust-catching grease. It never leaves hair looking or feeling sticky or gummy. Kreml goes in for modern, more natural-looking hair grooming. The kind in such great demand today. Why not try it, men? Kreml. Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, how about the clue of the hungry cat?
Well, Mr. Bell, it all began one day when Holmes and I, finding it a bit early for lunch as we walked down the Strand, turned into the Old Bailey, wondering if the jury had yet brought in the verdict in a sensational murder case which Holmes had been following in the papers with considerable interest. As we entered the courtroom, we heard the clerk of the court saying,
"Prisoner at the bar, you stand convicted of murder by the verdict of a jury of your peers. Have you anything to say before judgment is pronounced upon you?"
Only, my lords and gentlemen of the jury, that I am innocent of this crime.
Silence in the court.
Robert Saunders, you have been found guilty of the murder of Amanda Post. The sentence of this court is that you be taken to that place from whence you came, and that 2 weeks from today, on the 12th of October, you be hanged by the neck until you are dead. May the Lord have mercy on your soul.
I must say that fellow Saunders had it coming to him, Holmes. Open and shut case if I ever heard one.
I wonder, Watson.
Oh, now really, Holmes, even you can't find anything to wonder about in the killing of that poor woman. Her husband was away, that fellow Saunders saw his chance, broke into the house, robbed Mr. Post's cash box, and evidently woke up Mrs. Post. He knew that she'd recognize him, so he made quite sure that she'd never testify by choking the poor woman to death. He then tried to burn the house down to conceal his crime. If you ask me, hanging's too good for him.
The cash box is what intrigues me, Watson.
And what, pray, is intriguing about the cash box? Why, that fellow Saunders admitted that he stole £8 out of it.
Can you tell me, Watson, why any sane man, and I heard no testimony adduced to prove that Saunders was insane, should steal the sum of £8 out of a cash box that contained 65?
Oh, let me see. Well, perhaps the fellow was suddenly frightened. Or the balance might have been in large notes that could have been traced. No way to the chops for me, the Harricks to Mr. Holmes.
Oh, very good, sir.
Sorry, Watson, but I can't accept your alternatives. Saunders' only defense, and I grant you that it was a feeble one, was that Mr. Post had owed him £8, and that was his reason for taking only that sum.
Oh, delicious. They do chop here better than any place in London. I suppose you believe Saunders' story.
Despite your evident amusement, I do.
Well, all I can say, Holmes, is that... Look, that girl over there in the corner, the one who's crying into her handkerchief, didn't we see her in the court just now?
Not only did we see her, but as you should know from the drawings which have been published in every newspaper these last few days, she's the fiancée of the convicted man.
I say, Holmes, where are you going?
Come along, Watson. My curiosity is aroused.
Good heavens. The last time your curiosity was aroused, I found myself in the Sahara Desert in the middle of July.
I beg your pardon, Miss Caldwell.
Oh.
I couldn't help noticing your evident distress. And although I don't wish to hold out any false hopes, let me assure you that I share your belief that your fiancé has been convicted of a crime of which he's innocent.
You really? Oh, leave me alone. You're another of those newspaper reporters.
I assure you, my dear, that I'm not. My name is Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes? Oh, Mr. Holmes, You really believe that Bob is innocent?
Your fiancé, Miss Caldwell, is a young man of good education and very evident intelligence. I cannot bring myself to believe that he stupidly and brutally killed Mrs. Post to conceal a minor theft.
Oh, I can't tell you what it means to me just to hear you say that. Why, even Mr. Briggs, when he was defending Bob in that horrible courtroom, didn't speak as though he believed Bob's own story. But it's true. I know it's true. I haven't much money, Mr. Holmes, but if
It's
you'll only...
not a question of money, Miss Caldwell. I have an ingrained prejudice against seeing the innocent convicted. Suppose you come with Dr. Watson and myself while we pay a visit to the scene of the crime. As the next-door neighbor of the house where the tragedy occurred, Mrs. Roberts, won't you tell us in your own words just what happened?
Well, Mr. Holmes, although it was some time ago, it still catches me all of a sudden when I think of it. There takes me aback, it does. Sometimes I come all over dizzy like...
There's too much gin, if you ask me.
Quiet, Watson. I can well believe it, Mrs. Roberts.
But please, Mrs. Roberts, won't you tell Mr. Holmes what you remember?
Well, that morning, Mr. Post was going away on business to Brighton. Going to be gone a couple of days, he was. Now, around noontime, I happened to look out of my window. Not that I'm the type that's forever minding other people's business, you'll understand. And I seen him a-standing in the front door just as he was a-saying goodbye to her.
Saying? But I understood from the evidence that Mrs. Post was stone deaf.
When I say saying, I mean he was waving goodbye to her, like he always did when he went away.
Did you see Mrs. Post wave back to him?
Well, in a manner of speaking, yes. At least I seen the curtain move inside the front parlor window, so I guess she was a-waving to him from inside.
Fairly conclusive, Holmes. The poor woman was alive when her husband left, and she was dead after the fire. No one else could possibly have killed her.
Bob didn't. I don't care what you say.
And after Mr. Post left, Mrs. Roberts, what happened then?
Nothing. I was busy with me housework. Frying up a nice bit of fish for me old man's supper, I was. And I didn't notice nothing next door until about 8 o'clock that evening.
8 o'clock? But the fire wasn't until midnight.
But maybe it's silly of me to mention it. It wasn't anything important.
When a murder has been committed, Mrs. Roberts, no fact is unimportant.
Well, I never did. It was only at about 8 o'clock. Her cat, Minnie, came scratching and yowling around me back door. Hungry she was.
Most enlightening.
No, really, Holmes...
Was that the cat's usual habit, Mrs. Roberts?
No. Amanda Post was loony about that cat. Gave it its supper every night at 6 regular. Liver she used to feed it at 6 a pound. Now that's scandalous, if you ask me, with poor people starving.
Yes, I see. Then what did you do?
Well, I fed the cat, and then I went to bed. And the old man and I were as sound asleep as two blessed angels in paradise when we heard the fire engines.
No, Harrigan. The place is going up like a tinderbox. If there's anyone in there, there's nothing we can do for them now.
Oh, it was horrible hearing them say that, Mr. Holmes. We were still thinking the deafer she was, poor Mrs. Post had not been awakened to the crackle of the flames. And it wasn't until the next day, when the men from Scotland Yard were looking around the wreckage, that they told us that she'd been strangled in her bed before the fire ever started. Strangled by that smooth-spoken, murdering young devil, that Robert Sands.
No, it isn't true. That's a lie. Bob couldn't
Control yourself, please, my dear Miss Caldwell. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. I greatly appreciate the assistance you've given us. Good day.
Oh, not at all, Mr. Holmes. It's been a pleasure, I'm sure.
But, Mr. Holmes, all that woman's evidence came out in court. There's nothing there to help you set Robert free.
Well, I'm afraid you're right. I'm dashed if I can make head or tail out of that stream of nonsense that woman spouted at us.
Don't be too hasty, Watson. I should like to call your attention to the curious incident of Minnie's supper.
But that night the cat didn't get her supper.
That was the curious incident.
will you put down that violin for a moment and pay attention?
This is the third time since we got home that you've interrupted what I'm sure might prove a magnificent composition, my dear Watson. What's the matter now?
Well, listen to this note. My dear Mr. Holmes, may I request your immediate presence at my home on a matter of the greatest possible importance. I enclose my cheque for 500 guineas as a retainer signed Geoffrey Brookfield. In brackets, the Earl of Brookfield. 500 guinea retainer. You calmly sit here on Baker Street playing the violin.
If you like, you may write to Lord Brookfield and tell him that the paintings over which he's so worried have been sold by his son to provide jewels for the dancer with whom the young man is enamored. And send his cheque back to him with my compliments. Come in.
Yes, Mrs. Hudson, what is it?
A gentleman to see Mr. Holmes, sir. Mr. Post.
Mr. Post?
Oh, yes. Show him up, will you, please?
Yes, sir.
You act as though you expected this fellow Post.
When I put a ferret down a hole, Watson, I usually do so in expectation of starting a rabbit.
You mean those questions of yours, Mrs. Roberts, this afternoon?
Our garrulous friend, Mrs. Roberts, is not the type to keep a visit from Sherlock Holmes a secret from the neighborhood.
Mr. Post, Mr. Holmes.
Good evening, Mr. Post.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Quite. And this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson.
Good evening, sir.
Doctor.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I prefer to stand. I must confess I'm somewhat upset by what my former neighbor, Mrs. Roberts, told me this evening.
Oh? What was that?
That you and Dr. Watson and that young woman were asking questions this afternoon.
There's nothing for you to be upset about, Mr. Post. But I confess that the unfortunate matter of your late wife's death had certain features which seemed to me odd, shall we say?
But this morning, Saunders was found guilty and condemned to be hanged.
I'm aware of that. But as long as you're here, Mr. Post, I'm sure you won't mind answering a question or two.
Not at all. Though I fail to see
do sit down, Mr. Post. You're making me nervous, walking back and forth, back and forth.
I'm awfully sorry, Doctor. Ever since this horrible thing happened, I can't seem to sit
still.
Yes,
of course, I'm so sorry.
This fellow Sanders, a former employee of yours, wasn't he, Mr. Post?
He was. I sacked him. The fellow was always nosing about things that didn't concern him.
And according to him, you still owed him £8 back wages.
Oh, not a bit of truth to it.
I'm sure there wasn't. After all, a matter of £8 could mean very little to you. You'll pardon my mentioning it, Mr. Post, but you must be a man of considerable wealth now.
If you mean since my wife's death, yes, I am. When I came to England from Australia a couple of years ago, all I had was a few £100 and some business experience. I met and married my dear Amanda within the past year, Mr. Holmes. And a finer wife no man ever had. I can assure you that I'd give all the wealth she left me and a dozen times over to have her back with me.
Of course. The sentiment does you credit, sir.
Quite. And now that I've met you, Mr. Post, let me assure you that any doubts I may have had in the matter are entirely resolved.
I'm glad to hear it, Mr. Holmes. You'll pardon my intrusion, but, well, you understand.
Yes, indeed, sir, indeed.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, sir.
Good night, Mr. Post.
Pleasant fella. Well, Holmes, I'm glad that your doubts have finally been set at rest.
Yes. Any lingering doubts I may have had as to Sanders' innocence have now been completely removed.
Huh? Sanders' innocence?
Watson, does it occur to you that there's something about our friend Mr. Post that doesn't quite ring true?
Oh, come, Holmes. Seems to me a fine, upstanding fellow.
But did you happen to notice his curious way of pacing up and down?
Well, the poor man's overwrought. Probably can't keep still. It's natural enough, being a doctor.
Our sitting room, Watson, is 23 feet in length, with no obstructions in the area where Mr. Post chose to do his pacing. Yet he turned automatically again and again at each end of what I estimate to be an 8-foot walk.
8 foot? What are you driving at?
8 feet, Watson, happens to be exactly the length of a prison cell.
In just a moment, we rejoin Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson as they try to solve the mystery of the strange death of Amanda Post. Did you know that a recent survey showed Kreml hair tonic was the hair tonic preferred among America's top-flight executives and better-dressed men? Well, this isn't at all surprising because Kreml is famous for giving hair that smooth, well-groomed appearance, for which there is no substitute. And what's so important, Kreml does lots more than just keep hair looking handsome. Kreml removes dandruff flakes. It promptly relieves itching of scalp due to dryness and actually helps condition the hair, in that it leaves it feeling so much softer. Notice how much easier your hair is to comb, how every lock falls right in place and stays that way all day long. And remember, whereas Kreml gives hair a rich, attractive luster, it never leaves hair looking or feeling greasy. Ask for an application of Kreml at your barber shop. Buy a bottle at any drugstore. Kreml. Kreml Hair Tonic. And now, Dr. Watson, what did Sherlock Holmes do after he called your attention to the odd behavior of Mr.
Well,
Post?
it was too late that night for us to do anything, although Holmes did send off a cable to Australia asking for all available information on the mysterious Mr. Post. But, bright and early the next morning, Holmes and I set off in a hansom cab, almost before I'd finished my breakfast. Our destination being the fire brigade station nearest the late Mrs. Post's house.
You're convinced the fire was incendiary, Captain?
Oh, no question in my mind at all, Mr. Holmes. Blazing like a Guy Fawkes piece it was by the time we got there. After we finally had it wetted down, there was a smell of paraffin oil strong enough to choke you all over the place.
So you very rightly sent for the police?
Oh, I did that, sir, just as soon as I found that poor woman lying dead in her bed, or was left of it. Though I thought she died of suffocation.
Well, the medical evidence that she'd been strangled before the fire started was clear enough. I know Dr. Richardson, a sound man, very sound.
And it was you who found the cash box, Captain?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. Being of stout metal, it hadn't come to no harm. Very hot fire like that sometimes is a freakish way of burning some things to a crisp and leaving others almost undamaged. The thing we often see in our business.
I wish I could have inspected the house the morning after the fire. Watson, this shows you the disadvantage of attempting to follow a cold trail.
Well, I'm sure I don't know what to expect to find.
I don't know myself, but there must be something.
Perhaps it won't be any good, Mr. Holmes, because it's a regular ragbag collection of odds and ends. But most of the things from Mrs. Post's bedroom are right back there on that table in the corner. Those that weren't too badly burned. They would have been thrown out this morning. The police made us keep them until after the trial.
Capital.
Well, you're welcome to take a look at them, sir.
Smells more like a salvage sale. Curious-looking collection. And what is that horrible-looking object?
Some kind of a stuffed fish that was mounted on a plaque. It says, souvenir of Brighton. And over there is the poor woman's horsehair pillow. That's hard stuff to burn.
What's this?
A Bible with the covers burned off. And an alarm clock that had been on the bureau. It was still running when we picked it up, as a matter of fact.
Set for noon, I see.
And this strange-looking thing turned out to be the late Mrs. Post's corset. All that was left of it.
Rather gruesome, I must say. Makes me think of the relics we'll all have to leave behind when we shuffle off this mortal coil, eh?
Don't be morbid, Watson.
And here's some silver that was on the dresser. And these pieces of the picture and basin and the soap dish. I'm afraid that's the whole collection.
Well, what must be learnt from that, eh, Holmes?
As I've told you on previous occasions, Watson, you see, but you do not observe.
And what, may I ask, is to be observed from this insanity and odorous collection?
Only enough, I trust, to remove Robert Sanders from the shadow of the gallows and to substitute the estimable Mr. Post in his place.
Good gracious me.
Would you be good enough, Watson, to ring for Mrs. Hudson?
All right, Holmes, if you say so, but how you expect to frighten Post into confessing that he murdered his wife and then set the house on fire while he was 50 miles away in Brighton is beyond me.
You are in possession of the same facts that I am, Watson, and since you know my methods, you should be able to reach the same conclusions. I must admit... Come in.
Oh, you rang, Mr. Holmes?
We're expecting a visitor, Mrs. Hudson. Mr. Post, who was here last night.
Oh, I remember him, sir. A very nice gentleman. He tipped me a shilling on his way out.
I have reason to think that he'll be here very shortly. Will you show him up as soon as he arrives?
All right, sir.
You were saying?
I was about to say that the problem no longer lies in the solution of the crime. That, of course, is obvious to anyone.
Well, of course, certainly obvious.
The difficulty is I haven't a shred of evidence. Therefore, the only possibility of justice being done is through forcing a confession from Mr. Post by suddenly facing him with an utterly unexpected reconstruction of what actually happened. I suggest, Watson, that you arm yourself with your service revolver. I have reason to think that Mr. Post may react violently.
Really? Loaded and ready. But I do think, Holmes, that if you're so sure that Post is a murderer, you might at least tell the police.
I very much doubt if Scotland Yard would admit itself completely in the wrong without proof, which, of course, I haven't got. No, Watson, I'm... Come in.
Good evening, Mr. Holmes. Dr. Watson.
Good evening.
I received your note, Mr. Holmes, asking me to call on you at once on a matter of the greatest importance.
I'm sorry to trouble you at this hour of night, Mr. Post, but there have been one or two puzzling questions in connection with your wife's death which have been bothering Dr. Watson and myself.
But I thought you said last night that all your doubts had been resolved.
They had, Mr. Post, but I didn't specify what doubts.
I'm afraid you're being a bit cryptic. I must beg you, Mr. Holmes, to come to the point.
Very well, Mr. Post. Let me present you a reconstruction of what I can only term a highly ingenious crime.
I'm listening.
A certain man who, for the moment, shall be nameless, meets and courts a wealthy woman who, despite the handicap of her deafness, is still attractive, and marries her.
Very interesting, Mr. Holmes.
Then, ruthlessly and in cold blood, he strangles this poor, foolish, credulous woman, knowing that under her will he will inherit her fortune.
I know what you're insinuating, and
Then you admit?
I admit nothing. There's no reason why I have to stay here and listen to you insult my wife's memory.
Sit down, Mr. Post. You don't dare leave till you discover just how much I really do know.
Very well, Mr. Holmes. And just how does this man do what you say he did without getting caught?
After he's strangled her, and his other preparations have been made, he stands in the front door of their house, ostensibly waving goodbye to the wife who already lies dead upon her bed.
Holmes, Mrs. Roberts said that...
The fond farewell is answered, Watson, by a curtain that moves in one of the front windows. Who is there to know that the curtain has merely moved at the twitch of a string held in the murderer's hand?
At least, Mr. Holmes, I must congratulate you on your ingenuity.
But there were a couple of things the husband overlooked. First, Minnie, his wife's pet cat. Minnie comes to the back door at the usual hour. Her plaintive scratchings produce no result. And why? Because the wife who usually feeds Minnie already lies dead.
That's what you meant, Holmes.
Precisely, Watson. After which the house is silent until midnight, when suddenly a fire breaks forth. A fire of such intensity as to consume almost all the evidence of the crime. And, most important of all, a fire which was meant to produce in the eye of the beholder an unshakable alibi for the husband, who at that moment was so far away. The fact that Sanders chose to break in that same night was sheer good luck for the murderer, for he gave the police a ready-made suspect.
And now let me ask you one question, Mr. Holmes. Just how did the husband of whom you speak produce this conflagration while he was at least 50 miles away?
Probably by means of some simple attachment connected to the alarm clock in his wife's room, which was set to go off at 12 midnight, Watson, not 12 noon, as you surmised.
Good heavens, Holmes.
An attachment which was later destroyed by the heat of the fire.
Very pretty piece of fiction, Mr. Holmes. Of course, it would never stand up in a court of law.
I'm not so sure, Mr. Post.
Oh, I am. After all, it would just be your word against mine.
Yes. The word of Sherlock Holmes against that of an ex-convict.
Why, you...
Two of whose previous wives died in Australia under suspicious circumstances.
I won't listen to any more.
What's been said is sufficient.
He'll never get me for those other two, nor for this one.
Then you do admit.
Yes. I killed my wife, but you'll never see me in court.
Nice work, Watson. Is he badly hurt?
I don't think so. Just a flesh wound in his shoulder. Knocked him out for a few minutes, that's all. He'll live, I'm afraid.
Watson, if you hadn't shot first...
Oh, nothing whatever, nothing at all. Don't mention no fella. Tell me, how did you ever deduce that whole story just from the fact that the cat didn't get her supper?
I didn't, Watson.
Oh, you said that...
The incident of the cat's supper served to make me suspicious. I only became certain at the fire station when I saw the alarm clock.
But Holmes, I saw that alarm clock. Seemed like a perfectly ordinary clock to me.
As I remarked before, Watson, you see but you do not observe. Why would a woman who is stone deaf have set an alarm clock to waken her at 12 o'clock?
Well, of all the blind idiots...
Quite. And now, chap, ring for Mrs. Hudson, will you? I think perhaps the police might be interested in our friend, Mr. Post.
Was Mr. Post convicted, Dr. Watson?
Oh, he was, Mr. Bell, when he was confronted with the evidence in court, plus the cablegram that Holmes had received from Australia, telling about Post's rather murky past. He went all to pieces, broke down and confessed everything. Of course, Robert Sanders was immediately set free.
I see. And now, Dr. Watson, before you tell us about next week's story, may I ask our lady listeners this question?
Oh, of course, my dear fellow, of course.
Did you know that the makers of Kreml hair tonic also make a remarkably beautifying shampoo? Yes, and quite naturally, it's called Kreml shampoo. The famous Powers models were among the first to discover its amazingly beautifying action. And here's their consensus of opinion.
There's nothing better than Tremayne shampoo to keep hair shining bright for days. Each tiny strand just gleaming with natural glossy luster.
Tremayne shampoo works like magic, even in the hardest water. Its rich, active foam penetrates right to the scalp and removes all loose dandruff as well as the dirt.
Oh, and don't forget about its beneficial oil base. This helps keep hair from becoming dry or brittle and leaves the hair so much softer and silkier.
We always use Tremayne shampoo at our house, and my wife is smart. She buys the large family size. Kreml. Tremayne shampoo. And now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, let me see. Next week, I think I'll tell you about the incredible and rather grim happenings that transpired in the ancestral home of the Burleys on the storm-swept Cornish coast. And how Sherlock Holmes once again came to grips with that arch-fiend of crime, the sinister Professor Moriarty.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Boscombe Valley Mystery. Nigel Bruce appeared by permission of California Pictures, and Tom Conway through the courtesy of Eagle Lion Pictures. This is Joseph Bell speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo, and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time, when Dr. Watson will tell us about Sherlock Holmes' encounter with Professor Moriarty. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. Well, the first two episodes with Tom Conway, I had mixed feelings on. This one I felt a lot better about. I think he really kind of got more of a feel of Holmes, and kind of maybe even a little better interaction with Bruce in this episode. This was a very cleverly designed puzzle mystery. The use of the date October 12th kind of stood out to me in this particular episode, because October 12th was my birthday, first of all, so anytime that date is mentioned, it stands out. But it was also the date of the premiere episode of Sherlock Holmes with Tom Conway just 2 weeks before. So apparently they like the date. All right, well, as promised, some thoughts on the BBC television production of Sherlock. To be honest, Benedict Cumberbatch will not make anyone forget Basil Rathbone, or Jeremy Brett for that matter. But I do think the production is interesting. It less tries to imagine what it would be like if, Sherlock Holmes, as conceived in the Victorian era, were to fight crime in the 21st century. Rather, Sherlock imagines a Holmes who is truly a child of this generation, a Gen Xer, very well acquainted with technology, and it brings out some of the elements of Holmes's character in terms of wanting an escape from boredom, which if he were born in this century, where we're kind of used to having and have more of that demand naturally, in my generation and the one before it, of seeking that excitement, it's really amped up. One of the, I think, the really nice features is when Holmes is making his deduction, they use the camera work to really good effect. When he's explaining, I saw this and this and this, rather than having to imagine what he saw in their mind, the camera flashes an image of each clue, zooms in to see what Holmes saw. So you kind of get the effect of Sherlock vision. The two things that I didn't necessarily care for is I did think they may have gone a little too far in some of their adaptation. In the episode that I watched, The Great Game, It features an update of the Bruce Partington plans with the Bruce Partington project involving the theft of missile plans. Holmes is totally blasé about the theft of the plans, which kind of is a bit too much on the blasé side. That just didn't work for me. I also, in that particular episode, they introduced Professor Moriarty, and I have to admit that I didn't care much for the portrayal. It was kind of a Keith Ledger as the Joker, though amped down quite a bit in style. And to me, that just doesn't quite work right for Moriarty. Still, it's a pretty interesting concept. In the U.S., the show was rated TV-14, and I would agree with that rating. That's mainly for the violence and scary moments in the course of the episode. All right, well, that'll do it for now. We'll be back next week with another episode of Sherlock Holmes. Before we get started with the show, I do want to let you know once again about Johnny Dollar Air. Johnny Dollar Air is powered by Priceline and allows you to name your own prices on hotels, rental cars, airline tickets, and even more, or choose from published fares. Plus, purchases made there do help support the great detectives of old-time radio. So remember, when you make your travel plans, JohnnyDollarAir.com. That's JohnnyDollarAir.com. Well, let's get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Adam Kegg Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmond O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Al Beckney, Johnny, Grand East.
Oh, yes, Al. What or whom did you insure that you shouldn't have?
What?
Or are you inviting me to dinner? I get 3 kinds of phone calls, social, business, and people who want money, creditors or otherwise. And I don't owe you any money.
I didn't mean to insult you.
You haven't. What is it?
You read about the Kegg burglary in New York, haven't you?
The papers say those jewels aren't insured.
Well, they are, by us. $125,000. You want a job?
Well, you don't need me. The police are working on it, aren't they?
Yeah, but in the wrong direction. We think we've got a line on this stuff, Johnny, and we need somebody to go check on it. Are you free?
Unemployed, yes, but not free. Where do we start?
Edmond O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Grand East All Risk Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Adam Kegg matter. Expense account item 1, $34, transportation as instructed from Hartford to New York and the Parkview Manor, an apartment hotel on 59th. Your man Begney met me in the lobby.
Hello, Johnny. Well, it's a fast trip.
How are you, Al?
Fine, we'll go right up. I think the Keggs are waiting for us. Elevator's right over there.
Say, this Kegg, he has some money, hasn't he?
Yeah. He's the angel type, and so far he's married at least one girl from the line from every show he's ever bagged.
Is that bad?
I wouldn't know, Johnny. You'll find Adam Kegg to be a very dislikable character, so hold your temper if you can, huh?
Do you have any special reason for keeping it secret that you insured this missing jewelry?
Well, it's more or less of a courtesy to Kegg. He's lost some money this season, and, well, sometimes these thefts cause some speculation, you know. He'd just rather not be talked about that way.
Going up, gentlemen?
642. This is it.
Hello.
Mrs. Kegg?
Currently, yes.
I'm Mr. Begney from the insurance company. This is Mr. Dollar, our investigator.
How do you do?
Well, come on in.
Thank you.
Is your husband at home?
Yeah, he's here. He's taking a nap. Sit down. I'll wake him up.
Wake me up?
These men want to talk to you, Eddie.
If you'll take that corn off the phonograph, maybe we can talk.
Sure. I didn't know it bothered you.
Which one of you is Begney?
I am. This is Mr. Dollar, the investigator we hired.
Are you one of these New York private detectives? I've heard the majority of you are willing to play both ends against the middle.
I've heard that a lot of clients like it that way.
What do you mean by that?
Anything you want.
Gentlemen, please. Mr. Kegg, I understand there was a message of some kind this morning.
Who is this man?
I'm from Hartford. There's not as much chance in a small city for two-end dealing, so I haven't had much practice. But I'm willing.
Mr. Kegg, Dollar here has worked for my company a number of times. We wouldn't have hired him if we didn't trust him. Now, please, will you tell us about this message?
Go get the paper, Sylvia.
It's right next to you. Right there, in the magazine rack.
I didn't put it there. Here it is.
Is anybody going to explain it?
Let me, Addie, if you don't feel like it.
I don't. I'm bored with the whole thing.
The paper was left in front of our door the same as usual this morning. But on the front page, this was stamped, page 3, part 2. I noticed it and told Addie to look at it.
The bellboys deliver your paper?
Yes, Danny does. And here it is, see? This antihistamine ad. Inhiston. You see, the I and the N have been crossed out. And these other words, so it reads, Histon stops that sign of your cold cash. Stamped in. Only Histon makes this startling offer. Insist on Histon. Look at it. You can figure it.
The rest of the message was drawn from the advertising copy the same way. The price of the product was changed from 98 cents to read $98,000, the price for the return of the jewels. The home of the firm, Montclair, New Jersey, was circled, and rubber-stamped beneath that were the words, phone booth, Maple and 7th, 10:30 p.m. tomorrow.
What do you make of it, Dollar?
Well, I'd like to talk to the bellboy. What'd you say his name was?
Danny Stevens. I'll phone down and have him come up.
That ad is the work of a crank. Anybody should be able to see that.
You're right. You have to be a crank to be a thief.
You think there's something to it?
Well, demanding ransom for the stuff makes sense. If he gets it, it'll be a lot easier than trying to fence hot jewelry. He's using the name Histon and evidently wants to open negotiations tomorrow night in Montclair. You going to take him up on it, Al?
The company told me to do anything I wanted to. No questions asked.
If you follow this up, you'll be making a fool of yourself. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm going to my room.
He's a cooperative fellow, isn't he?
He'll do. Do you want me to go to Montclair?
Yeah, I realize it's unusual, Johnny, but if there's a chance of saving the company the difference between $98,000 and $125,000, I think I ought to take that chance. Maybe this would be...
Danny wondered if you could talk to him downstairs. He's the only one on duty.
Sure, that'll be all right. Before we go, I wonder if you'd give me the details of the theft. It was a story like those you read in the papers every other week or so. She and her husband were out for the evening. Her jewelry was in a locked box in a locked drawer. When they came home, the dresser had been opened. Who might have known where the jewels were? She didn't know. Possibly the maid. When we got to the manager's office, we checked on the maid. She lived in Montclair, New Jersey, and she had just resigned. Then Danny Stevens, the bellboy, was shown in.
You wanted to talk to me?
Yeah. Have you ever been inside the Kegg apartment?
Well, sure I have. Guess I've been in every room in the building.
How many times have you been there?
Oh, I don't know. How would I know anything like that?
How well did you know her?
Oh, Mrs. Kegg? Good enough to talk to. Had a cigarette with her once. You don't think I had anything to do with this, do you?
You put the paper in front of the door every morning?
Yeah, that's right.
How about this morning?
Well, when I got up there, paper was there already. I didn't think much about it, because I figured maybe the night man had gone up there and left it.
Had he?
No. As soon as Mr. Kegg called about what was in the paper, I asked, and Jim hadn't been up there at all. That's what he said, anyway.
Where do you live?
In Queens. Look, mister, the cops asked me all this stuff. I don't know anything about it. You're wasting your time.
You'll be around here, won't you?
Yeah, sure I will. I live here. I plan to make a career out of hotel work. I won't leave.
Al Begney brought me up to date on police progress. The case was 3 days old, and all they had was some worthless, smudged fingerprints and the assumption that the same implement had been used to pry open the apartment door, the dresser, and the jewel box. They were canvassing the known fences so far without success. Expense account item 2, $25, dinner, drinks, etc., after checking into the Hotel Langley. And expense account item 3, $40 for car rental the next evening and the 15-mile trip to Montclair.
The Maple and 7th, rubber-stamped into the contrived message, was an intersection that boasted 3 stores closed for the night, and on the 4th corner, a bowling alley. The only visible phone booth was on the sidewalk near the entrance to the alleys. As I stepped inside, I noticed a pair of headlights snap on a few yards up the street. And a half minute later, the car pulled out and double parked near me.
You calling out or waiting?
Waiting for a call. Why?
Who from?
Somebody named Histon.
I'm your man. Come on. I came alone. You could cause me some trouble, but don't do it. You won't get the stuff back that way.
That's the deal. I came to listen to you, not play hero.
Yeah. Come on, get in. Why'd he send you?
Kegg? He didn't send me. I'm an insurance investigator.
I thought those things weren't insured.
They are.
That makes sense, I guess. Guys like Kegg don't leave themselves open to get hurt. Always somebody else.
You know him?
I know what he is. I'll pull in this alley. Yeah, we can talk here for a few minutes. Now, who's going to pay the money?
The insurance company, if anybody does.
How much do you expect me to sell?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, what kind of a bargain do we make? Does the company in Kegg tell the cops to drop it?
I won't promise you that. You can't start something like this and have it all stop when you gouge $98,000 out of somebody.
I'm not thinking so much about myself.
Oh, you mean you pulled this heist for somebody else?
No, I didn't pull it for anybody.
It's a little too late to worry about whoever sold you information, isn't it?
How close are they?
Don't be stupid. Wouldn't take a junior G-man long to figure it. It had to be somebody who knew what Kegg's wife had, where she kept it, and probably when they were going to be away from the apartment.
Who do they think did that?
I didn't ask them. I came here to find out how you want to handle this thing.
I don't like it. I'll have to think about it.
$98,000. How long do you have to think?
Where can I get you by phone? What's your name?
Name's Dollar. I'm registered at the Hotel Langley in New York.
Okay. I'll call you. I'll try and make it sometime tomorrow.
That's all?
Yeah.
How about driving me back to 7th and Maple? I left my car there.
Take you there so you can follow me? Get out. You'll be better off with a little walk.
He kept his lights off while he drove out of the alley, so there wasn't a chance to get the license number. But I had memorized his features and a V-shaped scar on his right cheek. It was 10:45 when I got back to my car. Not too late, I hoped, to call on Miss Millicent Weaver, the maid who had recently resigned her job at the Kegg's Hotel.
But I've been through all this with the police. I don't think it's right somebody can be pushed around and nagged like this.
Do the police know you quit your job?
It's none of their business.
They'll be back to you when they find out. They'll want to know why you did.
It was entirely personal with me. It didn't have anything to do with the trouble, except that when the police started to insult me, I realized how public my life was in a hotel of that type.
Well, that's not very good. It sounds like you quit to get away from their questions.
That isn't so. I won't tell you why, but well, it has to do with my own personal code of ethics and how hard it was with that pack of linen closet wolves that hunted in that hotel. Do I make myself understood?
Yeah, I think so. But you did know where Mrs. Kegg kept her jewels.
If that's a crime, it's her fault. So busy impressing me with them.
What do you know about a blonde man with a scar on his cheek like an upside-down V?
Who?
I didn't get his name. Curly blonde hair, nose that might have been broken. He's about my size.
I don't remember anybody like that. Who is he?
He lives here in Montclair. He says he has the jewelry.
What does that have to do with me? Why'd you come here?
I just wanted to meet you, Millie. If you run into a blonde man with a scar, let me know. I'm at the Langley.
Good evening, sir.
Key, please, 412.
Yes, sir, right away. Oh, here's a message for you, Mr. Dollar. Lady said she'd be waiting for you in booth 1 in the bar.
Oh, if it's a lady, that must be some mistake.
Yes, sir, I know what you mean, but with this one, well, who cares?
Well.
What do you know about it?
I just got back from Montclair. What is it?
Danny, the bellboy. They told me at our hotel. Danny's been killed.
When?
Tonight sometime. I'm not sure. But I'm afraid of what's going to happen. Let's get out of here. Can we go to your room? I've got to talk about it.
We'll return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. But first, Hopalong Cassidy will come riding up to the door at CBS, the Star's address, again later this evening, with another fascinating Western adventure. Hopalong Cassidy, starring William Boyd, is heard every Saturday evening on most of these same CBS stations, where you'll also find Gene Autry, Vaughn Monroe, Lucille Ball, the Gangbuster Stories, and Sing It Again. Now, with our star, Edmond O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mrs. Kegg was silent during the elevator trip up to my floor, and until we were in my room and I had closed the door. Then she settled on the edge of the bed and started. I couldn't tell if it was an act or not. Come on, stop it. How much did you have to drink while you were waiting for me?
I'm not drunk.
Then let's use a little control, shall we? This sounds like a crying jab. Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Oh, I'm not.
Look, if you're trying to make me feel sorry for you, drop it. Frightened dames don't touch me anymore until I find out what they're afraid of.
Oh, shut up. I couldn't help it. I've been holding it in since I heard.
Holding what in?
I'm afraid what my husband is going to make out of it.
Out of Danny's death?
Yeah.
How was he killed?
He was run down by a car, going home from a movie. They haven't found the driver.
You don't think it was an accident?
I don't know. Danny was the first one questioned by the police after the robbery. I know they thought he knew more than he was telling.
Do you think he was mixed up in it?
Well, if he was...
Yeah?
If he was, my husband is going to accuse me of being in it with him.
Stealing your own jewels? How does that work?
Oh, they weren't mine. The privilege of wearing them was. That's the way it's been with all his wives. You lose the privilege when you're divorced.
You were due for a divorce?
Yeah. He got some ideas about Danny and me.
It's funny, so did I.
Well, there was nothing to it. He was a nice guy. Used to drop up once in a while.
That isn't what he told me.
What did he tell you?
Maybe it isn't important. Danny did know where you kept your jewelry, didn't he?
Yes.
The dresser and which drawer?
Yeah, I'm afraid he knew quite a lot about me. I didn't think he'd use it to do anything like that to me.
How much are you holding back?
Nothing. I came to you, didn't I?
What about that hoped-up offer from Montclair?
You know more about that than I do. You went over there.
Yeah, I met a guy who decided to renege. He could have been a decoy, or he could have been Danny's killer.
Oh, I don't know anything about it. I hoped you'd believe me. That's why I came to you.
I was going to ask why. What do you expect me to do?
Nothing, I guess. I wanted to tell somebody that I knew what was going to happen, and you were handy. Adam is going to rant and curse and accuse me of every sin that exists. That's his marital privilege, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's late now. You better run along. The police played it cagey. If they did suspect that Danny Stevens' death was linked with the burglary, there was no mention of it in the papers the next morning. So after breakfast, I settled back to await developments. At 10, my phone rang. Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Dollar?
Yeah?
1 moment, please. I have a call from Hartford. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Dollar. Al Beckney.
Yeah.
Adam Kegg just phoned me.
Oh?
He's willing to drop the whole thing.
What?
Says he won't press a claim against the company.
Now, wait a minute, Al. Let's not plunge. What brought this about?
I told you he doesn't want any publicity. He says it's worth it to him to hush it up.
You can't do it, Al.
What do you mean I can't do it?
Well, it's up to you, naturally, but I'll tell you what it's liable to look like. Like your company pulled its investigator off the case rather than uncover a murder.
I didn't hear anything about a murder.
Well, there's one rattling around in this mess. That bellboy we talked to.
No? Well, I see what you mean. That wouldn't look too good, would it?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, well, you're right. You want me to call Kegg back?
No, I'll go right over. I'd like to toss it to him myself. I'll let you know how I come out.
Oh, what do you want?
I want to see your husband.
You can't. He's not here.
Well, I'll wait for him then.
Listen to me. He's here, but please don't tell him about last night. Please, you mustn't.
We'll see. Come on. Announce me.
All right. Come on. Sit down. I'll tell him.
Thanks.
Addie, Mr. Dollar is here to see you.
Who?
The investigator.
I thought I told that confounded company to leave me alone. The devil do you want?
I'd like to know why all of a sudden you wanted this investigation dropped.
I've been doing things the way I want to for quite a few years. I want it dropped. What's it to you or to your company? I assume you're being paid. They won't lose any money.
Are you afraid of what might come to the surface if the police investigate Danny Stevens' killing?
I don't want any more publicity on this thing. What would I be afraid of?
I take it the publicity you don't want is the guess that you might have faked this job to collect some money.
You don't have the only slanderous mind in town. The busybodies enjoy playing with ideas like that, and I don't want it.
Because it might occur to one of us that Danny knew the setup and was put out of the way.
You idiot.
That's an idea that would keep the nightclubs buzzing for months.
You're accusing me of killing him. What I'd like are those same words in front of a witness. I'd sue you out of the country.
I'm telling you that this thing can't be dropped because you don't like the taste of it anymore.
All right, idiot. Go ahead. If you insist on returning my jewelry to me or paying my claim in full, help yourself. What have you done so far?
I met a man in Montclair.
That was clever, since he said he'd meet you. What did you learn from him?
Well, the only thing I can be sure of is that he's my size, has blonde hair, and a scar on his right cheek like an inverted V. I'd know him if I saw him again.
Then go find him. Sylvia?
Yes, Adam?
Show this manhunter to the door. He's on the trail. Tally-ho!
I wish you'd drop it. Why can't you?
What's the matter with you?
Nothing. Everything. I wish I'd never seen him or his filthy jewels.
Why don't you open up?
Oh, I don't know anything about it. Now, please go. Please, before he comes out again.
Sure. There's nothing like expensive gifts to keep a woman happy, is there? So there I was in the middle of 59th Street with a basket full of suspects. An owner who didn't want to collect on his insurance or recover his stolen property, and an insurance company that wanted to drop the investigation but couldn't. I turned to the only possibly interested parties I could think of, the police.
That's very interesting. Why didn't you tell us before you went to Montclair?
Well, I'll be honest with you, because I know it won't go beyond this office. We were willing to be a little unethical to save the company some money, and when we did, we were going to make a full report to you.
Uh-huh. And now you want us to help you.
I didn't ask that. I wanted to know what had happened on the hit-and-run death.
Well, the driver's being indicted on a manslaughter charge. She gave herself up.
She? She gave herself up? Who?
Her name is Lindquist. She was driving home after a prolonged cocktail party.
There's no connection with the Kegg thing?
Not according to all her witnesses. She's visiting here from Florida. Got in day before yesterday.
Huh. There goes that angle.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. But accidents do happen.
That's when I called the company and agreed that we should give up the case. I was in my hotel room packing when a knock on the door changed my mind again.
I can't stand it any longer. I gotta talk to you.
You said that before. Come on. Well, what now?
That man you met in Montclair, I know him.
What makes you think so?
Blonde, a scar on his cheek. I used to go with him before I married Adam.
Who is he?
Stanley Griffin. He's a musician. What did he tell you?
You know where I can find him?
Yeah, on 8th Street near the village. I forgot the number, but it's in the phone book.
All right. He's been in your apartment?
Too many times. I've had to call the hotel detective to keep him away.
Ah. Griffin. Stanley A. Okay. I don't know why, but I'll go check it. Hey, how'd you get here? Because you're stupid. Close the door and shut that thing off.
I suppose this is it, as we jewel thieves say.
Is the stuff here?
Yeah. How'd you get here? Do you mind telling me?
I don't see that it makes any difference. Kegg's wife gave me a name.
Sylvia? You're lying.
I have no reason to lie.
I don't believe you. Why should you do that?
Why don't you can tell me?
All right, I'll tell you. I'll make a statement, but not unless I can make it in front of Adam Kegg.
I'll leave that up to you. Where's the stuff?
In the closet. I'll get it.
I moved to the closet door with him. I expected him to make a break, but he didn't. Instead, he opened a battered suitcase, fished out a paper sack that held over $100,000 worth of jewels, and we left.
Well, what's this?
Your stolen property. This is Stanley Griffin. He has a statement to make to you.
Where's Sylvia?
Mrs. Kegg is in her room.
I think she'd better come out.
Why?
She was going to share the profit.
Dan!
I think she should share the failure.
Dan, you're lying. Why are you doing this? Tell him you're lying.
Why should I tell him that?
Because you are. I had nothing to do with
Oh,
it.
stop it.
Well, Sylvia?
He's lying. Adam, don't listen to him. He's lying.
Am I? You tell him, Sylvia. You make him believe that I'm lying.
You can't do this!
Come on. Hey, quit it. Come on.
Let go of me! He's lying! He's lying! He's lying!
Calm down.
You're a rotten loser, Sylvia. You always have been. You're a beautiful winner, but you're a rotten loser.
Adam! Where are you going?
I'm going to call the police.
Adam!
Sit down.
You said you'd do it, didn't you? You said you'd drag me out of here. I thought you were just high, but you meant it. He's lying, Mr. Dollar. There's no way to prove it, but he's lying.
You're right. Everything you've done to date says you're right.
You're crazy. I'm not going to take the whole rap, not for her. She told me where she kept the jewelry. She told me where they were going and how late they'd be out.
Where did they go?
They went to a lot of places.
You'll have to do better than that. She'll crack your story if you don't.
She told me. I saw them go.
But where, Stan? Where could she go so that she could leave all her jewels home for you to pick them up? That must have been part of your plan. Where?
Tell him!
Get away from me, Dollar. You've got it back. Leave me alone.
Stay here. Don't try it.
Get away from me.
Get up.
Why not?
Keep him away from me.
Yeah. Keep me away while you can, Sylvia. But don't ever forget it. I'll be back.
To help the company complete its report on the Kegg matter, I enclose a portion of Stanley Griffin's statement to the police that same afternoon.
I don't know why I did it. Yeah, I do. I wanted to get her away from him. I loved her. When she wouldn't listen to me and leave him, she had me thrown out that night. I made up my mind to steal them and make it look like she helped me. So I did. Fixed up that newspaper I had. I was drunk and crazy. And I wanted to see her in prison. With me.
Expense account item 4, miscellaneous, $55. Item 5, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $230.40. Remarks? The whole matter was no more than a cloud of smoke. The bellboy's death was inconvenient but accidental. And the burglary was a rare type committed not for profit but for revenge by a jilted man. The company could have saved the above total, but please remit. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmond O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmond O'Brien's latest picture is the Paramount Pictures production Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Stacey Harris, Lamont Johnson, Jeanette Nolan, Jack Moyles, Hy Everback, Paula Victor, and Raymond Burr. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dan Coverly inviting you to join us next week at this time when we will again bring you Edmond O'Brien as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
How's for trying to sing it again tonight? $5,000 in cold hard cash and $10,000 in fine prizes are waiting for the CBS listener who can solve the new Phantom Voice mystery. Now stay tuned for Von Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where you laugh with Lucille Ball and my favorite husband on Saturday nights, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Raymond Burr, in this episode, really had one of the richer guest starring roles we've seen. Generally, when he's on these detective shows, he's either playing a hardened police officer or a hardened criminal. This one, there was a bit of sarcasm and nastiness in the way he played Adam Kegg. It was kind of a little bit of a different role. Of course, he was still a few years away from Perry Mason at this point. I do want to, before we wrap up today, I do want to say special thanks to Phil and Stephen, who both gave a nice tip to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio, and as with all tips of $7 or more, I've gone ahead and sent them the information to access the premium site. So thanks so much. And actually, they come from West Coast and East Coast. So great to have listeners all over the country and the world. Well, that'll actually do it for today. We'll be back next week, beginning a brand new detective series, The Adventures of the Abbotts, on Monday. And then next Friday, it's yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.